This is Rugby Radio
with Stuart Cameron.
Brought to you by Borders College.
Hello and welcome to Rugby Radio, which comes to you live from Riverside Park this afternoon for the big Premiership derby between Jedforest and Kelso, the two towns less than 10 miles away. Last week, of course, Kelso posted that important win over Curry by 25 points to 20, and that, combined with Selkirk's win at Raeburn Place against Accies, meant that Kelso are now in pole position to get into the playoffs by reaching 4th place. So a win today against their rivals, who are yet to post a win, will bring them closer to a playoff place. We'll be bringing you live commentary from that game. It kicks off at 3 o'clock with Dale Clancy and Robin Purdy. But first, some games which have kicked off at 2 o'clock today, one of them at 1:45 as well. So let's go through them and bring you right up to date. In the Premiership, Curry 5, Accies 0. Herits Blues 5, Glasgow Hawks 7, Musselburgh 14, Mar 10. In National 1, it's GHA 5, Biggar 15 at the moment. Glasgow Accies 14, Highland 0, Watsonians 0, Melrose 6. These are latest scores. In National 2, Falkirk 7, Berwick 0, Stirling County 0, Peebles 14. Peebles, the league leaders in National 2. National 3, it's Boroughmuir 14, West of Scotland 0, and in Division 4, Dunfermline 12, Strathmore 19. So back to our featured game. Let's go down pitch side to say good afternoon to Hugh Brown. Hello.
Afternoon, Stuart. Yes, you're very much nearly pitch side as well this afternoon because you're in the old stand here at Riverside Park.
The old wee stand, yes. We were just saying actually, because the main stand at Jed is 100 years old next season. It'll be seeing National 1 rugby though, sadly.
Yes, they will, because of course they have been relegated and absolutely hammered last week as well by 80 points to 10 by Mar, which really was the nail in the coffin, so to speak, of Jed. But that doesn't mean to say they won't be up for today's game, the local derby, as you mentioned, just a few miles between these teams. Jedforest against Kelso, always a good one. Today, of course, it is very vital for the away side because they are aiming for that 4th place playoff spot.
Good to see some well-known names in the Jedforest side today. You've got the Lewis Young and Gregor Young, over 200 appearances, and also Robert Hogg on the bench that we'll hopefully talk to him a little bit later on. Over 200 for him as well. A man who never seems to retire. As he said to me the other day, he said, I'm a long time retired, so whilst I've still got it in me, get out on the pitch.
It's a bit like you actually in the commentary box, actually, isn't it? You've been saying you're going to retire for years as well, but you haven't.
Never happen. Last week, as you mentioned it, Jedforest lost 80 points to 10 in a game they'll want to forget, so why are we keep reminding them? But they travelled to Troon with just 16 players, and in the Premiership, that's a very sad thing to see.
It is. You'd expect a town like Jedburgh to be able to produce a lot of rugby players, and it's quite sad, as you said, that they could only manage 16 players, which means they were up against it from the start. And if you lose 1 or 2 players to injury, then what do you do if you've only got 16 players with you on the team bus?
Yeah, very difficult indeed. Well, we'll bring you up to date with more. In fact, there's one coming in at the moment. GHA 12, Biggar 20 is a latest score at Braidholme. Glasgow Accies 14, Highland 5 as well. Well, earlier today you caught up with Kelso Director of Rugby, Neil Hinnigan. But first, let's hear your interview with one of the Jedforest coaching staff, and that is David Grieve.
David, welcome to Rugby Radio. It's been a season for Jedforest to forget, hasn't it, really?
It has. It's not been a good season, but we've got a couple of games to play, a couple of games at home, and we've got to try and get something, even if it's bonus points, or try and maybe even go for a couple of wins and give next season something to look forward to, something to build to.
Well, talking of looking forward, this is a game that you could look forward to, a local derby, the local derby between Jedforest and Kelso. It doesn't get much bigger than this, and of course Kelso have a lot riding on this.
It's a huge game for Kelso. I think it's probably the biggest underdogs we've been against Kelso, so for us, we've got nothing to lose. There's got to be a big crowd down, hopefully more Jed people than Kelso people, so we boys just have to get stuck in, have to get our defence right, and we've got a backline not scoring against any team.
This could well be the very last local derby between these two teams for some time, because obviously Jed have been relegated.
So boys just have to enjoy it. Kelso, Jed, it's always a big crowd. It's always a tough game. It's usually a close game, so boys have to enjoy it. And hopefully next season we can just one season away from the top flight and we can come back against them.
Now you've been advertising for a director of rugby. Did you not apply?
Definitely not. Absolutely not. No, no chance. Somebody who's well above my pay grade.
It's been difficult for the team in one sense because you've not had a head coach. You've had a number of coaches. How has that been for the team?
It's been tricky, but to be fair, we've not had a lot. We could have had better commitment for players at training as well. So it's for the top to the bottom. Everything has to be better. And for coaching, it's not been ideal. But again, if we're not getting the numbers on a Tuesday and a Thursday, there's not much coaches that can do anyways. That's something that's going to have to change.
I think are you short of players then, because you seem to struggle at times to put out a team plus replacements.
Well, yes and no. We've used over 48 players this season, which is it's a crazy start in itself. But then you look at last week and we've got 16 available. It's what do players want to do? What level do players want to play in Jed? That's the question they have to ask. It's because at the end of the day, it's a rugby club for players. If they're no fuss what level they're playing at, it's maybe something we have to think about.
Looking at the team news today, and experienced Dom Buckley comes back in at standoff, but you've lost a couple of players through injury. Jamie Hind and Elliot Lauder had injuries last week.
That's no ideal. Last week we were struggling for backs, this week we're struggling for forwards. It's one thing after another. Elliot, last week he had to play centre, so kind of felt sorry for him a wee bit, and he's probably one of our leaders in defence. You would have been back in the back row this week, and Jamie Hind, he's done a lot of work this season. He's got himself fit. I think he had something like 19-20 carries last week, so he'll be a big loss as well. But I think he was actually working this weekend as well. So even if he was fit, he wouldn't be able to play.
And it's actually a pretty inexperienced front row, because you've only got 32 appearances, I think, between the front row, haven't you?
Well, we've got Jamie. He's kind of been a utility player, but he said, I think it was before he played Henbrock, he's I'll step in at prop if you need us, and he's not looked back since. Obviously Harvey's came and helped us for Australia, and Dave Campbell, he's only 18, maybe 19, missed the first half of the season, and I think this is his second start, but he's actually a really good, he's one to watch him. He's definitely one for the future, Dave, he'd done well last week.
You got hammered 80 points to 10 last week. You'll obviously be hoping for a far closer game and hopefully maybe put one over on Kelso.
Definitely. Last week we were up against it before the kick-off. We were playing forwards in the backs, and it's never ideal. But one thing I would say about last week, our attitudes were really good. We kind of won the bickering. We had to stay positive, or it could have been a lot worse. We kind of stemmed the flow a wee bit in the second half. And today, if we can get our defence right today, I truly believe if we get our defence right, we can get something for this game.
We wish you well this afternoon. Have a good game. Thanks, David.
Cheers, thanks, cheers.
Neil, we're back with you again at this time at Riverside Park for this very important border derby between Jed and Kelso. I say it's important. How important is it for Kelso?
Yeah, I mean, in the context of playoffs, it's very important. There's no getting away from that. We simply must win if we want to finish fourth. And, we maybe didn't start out with that ambition. We looked, I've said it before, we looked at top six, but now that we've earned the right to go for it, with 2 games to go, then we've obviously got to try our best to get there. So obviously, yeah, it's a must win.
You've certainly defied the critics who thought that possibly you would go straight back down again to National League Division 1, but no, there you are, right in the mix for the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right. We got a few it's maybe an obvious thing anyways to say that we may went back straight back down, but we had a lot of confidence in the squad, and that's why we didn't really rush out to sign loads of players. Like people thought that would happen, but myself, Bruce, Kev, some of the committee at Kelso were quite confident in the squad we had, so we felt like we could be in and around that 6th, 7th place. That was a realistic target for us. So yeah, we've certainly done better than we thought, and a lot of other people certainly thought. So. But
that's a very good point, because other teams have signed players from other countries and things. You've kept very much local, haven't you, to Kelso? Yeah.
I mean, last week against Curry, I think we had 15 or 14 out of the the 20 all came through the Kelso Harlequins school and things, and then other guys like Andy Tate that's been here for 13 years, who's classed as Berwick, you know. So in general, yeah, we'll be sitting around sort of 85-90% Kelso players. So I mean, I think to play in the Premiership and do it the way we've done it is quite remarkable in this day and age. I mean, I think Selkirk are quite similar. You maybe get the odd foreigner and that in, but they certainly have a nucleus. So it's hard, really hard, Jed. You know, they're finding it hard at the moment. So when you've only got small towns, when you get a bit of a blank spot, it's hard to replace these players. You have to be quite smart and thrifty, and it's not easy.
Do you think they'll be very much up for this? They've obviously got the local support, and the spectators will be, most of them will be cheering on, I suspect, Jed. Do you think that will lift them this afternoon?
Yeah, it's got to lift them. I think they know themselves that this is probably their last opportunity to put any shine on their season. I understand it's been hard for them and whatnot, but you can just look at their team sheet to see how serious they're taking it. They feel like they've got an opportunity here, and why not? You know, that's what the rivalry is all about, and they're going to come at us, there's no doubt about it. And you know, if you look at some of the scores at home this season, like the last home game, they only lost by 4 points to Heriots, and it was one they maybe felt they could have won. So there's no reason why in their camp that they shouldn't feel like they can beat us, and it is a Kelso Jed game, so all of them are tight.
We talked about the fourth place playoff, but there are many permutations yet about who gets that fourth place playoff, but your focus today will be getting on 4 or 5 points.
Yeah, minimum we must get 4 points if we want to carry on this crusade. I can't see Heriots slipping up against Hawks, so you know, that's going to that puts us under an immense amount of pressure today, and obviously the Jed Kelso thing. So yeah, preferably 5 points, which means we only need to get 4 up at Hawks would be the ideal situation. But yeah, even if we get 4, it keeps our hopes alive.
What's interesting too about that is if you get that fourth place, you would get a tie at Mansfield Park against Hoyk. Yeah.
That's, you know, it's mouthwatering, and it's, you know, we suffered heavily up there at the start of the season. We had a rude awakening, if you like, and whatnot. So we know how difficult that would be. However, this group of players have never really shied away from any challenges so far, so they're not going to shy away for that one if we could get there. I mean, I think it's still a big if. It's just there's pressure on the guys, and they can deliver, but we're not ones to get ahead of ourselves. I think we've been like that for the last 2 or 3 years.
In team news, I believe you've lost Liam Tate. He's got a knee injury, which must be frustrating for you because he's been performing very well this season.
Yeah, I feel for Liam. You know, he's came back and given it a crack, and very talented rugby player he always was, but he missed about 4 or 5 years through an original knee operation years ago. So for Liam to come back and then perform Premiership level as well as he has been, I believe he had a genuine chance of probably being in the South squad as well. I don't know if he definitely was, but he was in the mix. So, you know, really disappointed for him, because I think he might struggle for the rest of this season now, and it's a shame because, as you say, he's been pivotal for us, especially in the big games. He's been one of the players that can stand up to some of these more physical city teams and whatnot.
Murray Woodcock starts in the back row, and I believe that Cammy Thompson is on the bench for you.
Yeah, Cammy comes straight back in. He was pretty unlucky to be out last week, and I know Cammy was really disappointed. I mean, we've got players at the moment that are almost in tears when they're not getting in this team, and they're struggling to it's that tight for selection. But Cammy went up to Hoyk Force for their second team and performed really well last Friday, so we were itching to get him back in. So the silver lining is that, you know, although Liam's injured, it gives Cammy Thompson an opportunity to come back in, and Murray Woodcock's been outstanding. I mean, he's another one. He's only 19. You wouldn't think it the way he's playing. He's starting to fill out a little bit physically, and if he can keep that sort of pace and engine he's got, along with a bit more physicality, I think he's going to be a big one for the future. I think he's got a good chance of being what we would class as a late bloomer maybe, but I think he's got all the material to do something, you know, so he just needs to keep improving as well.
We're hearing that the Super Series is likely not to take place next year. We haven't had official confirmation of that, but what will that mean for club rugby, do you think, next season?
It could be chaos, if I'm honest, because you've then got a huge amount of players looking for somewhere to play. You know, in the city it could be who's giving me 5 pence a mile more, who's doing what, you know, where's all the guys going to play, and do I play with my friends, do I play for money, what is it? Because all these guys are used to getting paid now, so they have to go somewhere. Some of them won't be from here, there will be people drift away from Scotland, but you look at these city teams, and for example, Ayr and Heriot are already in the Premiership next season. Let's say they cut it in May. How strong are Ayr particularly going to be in this Premiership? Heriot probably won't be far behind them. It changes the landscape completely. So clubs like Kelso or Musselburgh or Selkirk, who have been building quietly, trying to maintain this level or get better, are all of a sudden going to be a huge disadvantage to compete. So for me, it could cause a lot of chaos, but I mean, it happens. There's nothing. It's not really in our control. We just have to react. But I can see there being issues. Definitely.
Back to this afternoon then, and a prediction as always. I always put you on the spot.
Well, I said last week we'd win by 2 points, I think it was. So I'll say we'll win by 4 points this week. I'll say we'll win by 4. Kelso by 4 points. There you go.
And will you get the try bonus?
Yes. We'll go for a 28-24 to Kelso. There you go. I'm just plucking one out there. All right. Yeah.
Neil, always a pleasure to speak to you. Enjoy this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh. Cheers.
Hugh Brown talking to Neil Hinnigan, Director of Rugby at Kelso, and before that it was David Grieve from Jedforest. Some latest scores for you. It's Curry 15, Edinburgh Accies 0, Heriot's Blues 5, Glasgow Hawks 7, Musselburgh 14, Mar 22. They've got the try bonus already at Stony Hill. International 1, GHA 19, Biggar 20, Glasgow Accies 21, Highland 5, Watsonian 7, Melrose 13. In National 2 it's Falkirk 14, Berwick 0, Stirling County 12, Peebles 14, National 3, Boroughmuir 14, West of Scotland 14, and in National 4 at the moment it's Dunfermline 12, Strathmore 31. Well, let's go back pitchside now, because here at Riverside, a man who knows a lot about both clubs competing today is former chief rugby writer of The Scotsman, David Ferguson, and he's talking with you.
David, welcome. This is a huge border derby between these two local teams, Jed and Kelso, and they've had very, very different seasons. Jed relegated, Kelso in the hunt for a playoff spot. Nobody could have predicted that, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see, you've won one club on the up, as you see with Kelso in the last few years, and Jed struggling, losing players and not having the same strength and depth that they once had, perhaps. But it's difficult for Jed. They've done really well to be in the Premier as long as they have and to fight at this level, but they're really struggling to have players. I heard an interesting stat the other day of a friend whose daughter went to a Christmas party, believe it or not, in Melbourne. She counted 13 Jed boys there, aged between 20 and 30. Her boyfriend is a Jed boy, and they're youngsters that are across there, and for some reason, Australia has been very attractive at the moment to local boys. But you can't cope with that kind of thing, in a small town like Jed. They've lost a lot of boys in the last few years, and that's made it really difficult. But Kelso, Kelso are probably a model for them. The Jed are talking now about how to look at coming back and how to build up the club again. Kelso would be a good model for that, because they've worked really hard on how they build the numbers of players from youth ranks right the way through over the last 2 or 3 years, and we're now seeing the benefit of that.
I mentioned to David Grieve this will be the last border derby between these two teams for at least a season, maybe longer, depending what happens next year.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting that it was the first derby earlier in this season in the Premier for more than 20 years, so they've waited a long time to bring them both together in the Premier League. They'll probably play Border League and what have you, but yeah, you would have liked to have seen Jed stay a bit longer and for that to keep going. But yeah, I mean, for Kelso, it's certainly looking very bright for them at the moment. I think they came into this league hoping they could stay in the league. Then they were thinking, early on they were talking about mid-table was their aim. Let's just try and get as clear of relegation as quick as we can. They've done that. They're now looking at a playoff place. And yeah, that's phenomenal improvement by that squad.
Let's look to the Scotland setup then, and of course they play Wales this afternoon down in Cardiff at the Principality Stadium. But sadly for border rugby, there are no border players in the team today, and that is the first time our statistician has been working hard. 99 years it has been an unbroken record that a borderer has been in the Scotland team, but there won't be one this year. There isn't one this year.
No, I know, and I was very hopeful at Glenn Young. Again, Jedburgh boy, we're here today. We're hoping that he would have been a player that we could have had in that squad, at least on the bench. Not quite made it. They've gone for the experience of Sam Skinner, and that as a result, and myself and Stuart and Kevin Miller, accountant from Glasgow, a big Glasgow Warriors fan, have been working hard on the stats this week to try and make sure we can get that right. But yeah, going right back to 1924, we're talking, Calcutta Cup that year, 1925, I should say. Yeah, that's a tough one to take. It's incredible that the Borders, we've gone that long, nearly 100 years with a Border featuring in every single Scotland squad. And of course we had to have the asterisk that 2017 Scotland put out a team without a Borderer in it. Stuart Hogg was selected for that squad, but he pulled out in the warm-up, and so that was one. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I suppose it had to come, and it is a reflection on Borders rugby. It is a reflection that they are not playing at the top table, producing the players in the same way, and that's a real concern for me, and I don't think it's good for Scottish rugby.
Does that mean there isn't the pathway forward then for players to come through into the Scotland setup?
Yeah, and I think we saw it coming. I wrote in the Scotsman many years ago that if you close the pro team, I understood why they did it because of lack of finance. I didn't agree with it. Still thought we could have had a pro team, but at the very least you had to keep an academy here. This is the only part of Scotland where it's a working class game, and it means so much to the people here. You learn so much. There's so much rugby knowledge that you couldn't afford to not have an academy here and focus everything in Edinburgh and Glasgow. If you did, you would lose the richness of what you've got here, and that's what we've seen happen. So we're not seeing the same boys coming through to the pro ranks anymore. It was always going to happen when they did that, and SIU need to do something about that.
And just finally then, a prediction today then. I mean, Jed got absolutely annihilated 80 points to 10 last week. Surely it can't happen again this week.
No, I don't see it. And because this means so much to them. These boys know that they'll find it really hard to walk up Jed High Street next week if they've been smashed by Kelso. Kelso will certainly be out for it, but they're expecting a close game. It's going to be up front, whichever pack can get on top, and that's where Jed have to hold on really tight. If they can get ball, they've got some decent backs today. If Kelso take them on and really dominate up front, it is going to be a long day, but I think these Jed boys will fight right to the last minute today, so I don't expect it to be a massive scoreline, but I do expect Kelso to win.
David, good to talk to you even without the Arthur Montfort sports jacket today. All the best, enjoy the game. David Ferguson.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio. If you're looking to develop or hone your green skills, look no further than Borders College, your local community college. Visit borderscollege.ac.uk today. Borders College, regionally focused, globally engaged.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
Borders water, Borders barley and Borders people. That's what makes the Borders Distillery. Working exclusively with local farmers, the Borders Distillery is bringing whiskey making back to the region. Our award-winning distillery is open to everyone, where you can meet the people behind the scenes, explore our wash house and shop quality local products. Tour your local distillery and discover the spirit of the Borders. Full details at thebordersdistillery.com. Always enjoy our spirit responsibly. Under 18s must be accompanied by an adult when visiting the Borders Distillery.
Your pet deserves the best, and that's why your pet deserves the care and treatment offered by Border Vets. We focus on delivering the very best care to each and every one of our patients and clients. We get to know you and your pet and offer treatments tailored to every animal's individual needs, from our conveniently located surgeries in Galashiels, Selkirk and Earlston. Ask about our Pet Health Club for your cat or dog, giving you peace of mind by spreading the cost of vaccinations, regular checks and more. From dental care to travelling abroad and the whole range of veterinary services, bordervets.co.uk is where you'll find everything you need to know. Border Vets, where your pets are part of our family.
This is Rugby Radio, brought to you by Borders College.
Yes, of course, this isn't the only local derby happening today. The Bill McLaren Shield is on the line today in the Premiership match between Selkirk and Hawick. And covering this one for us today is Alan Lorimer.
Premiership leaders Hawick head to Philip Haw today, hoping to nail top spot in the league, and with it the guarantee of a home final in the playoffs if they reach that stage. As things stand, Hawick are 10 points clear of second place Mar, who have a game in hand, meaning that the Greens need only 1 point from today's game against Selkirk to make sure of top Premiership position. Arithmetically, it's still possible for Mar to pip Hawick, but to do so, the West Coast side would need to extract 5 points from each of their remaining 2 games and also score a heck of a lot of points in the process to bridge the gap between them and Hawick in terms of points differential. Right now, Hawick have 119 points differential advantage over Mar, so I doubt if you'd find many bookies taking bets on this one. Hawick did what they had to do against Heriots last week with that 1917 win at Golden Acre, with a team that was missing several star players. The Greens should be stronger today with the return of Dalton Redpath in second row and Ronan McKean on the wing. For Selkirk, today's game is all about pride. The Suitors sit third from the bottom, but in theory could leapfrog Musselburgh and Heriots, who are both 10 points ahead of Selkirk. It is something of an unrealistic target, but Selkirk will want to give a good account of themselves in this, their penultimate Premiership fixture. But whatever the ifs and buts of league arithmetic, this game is a Borders derby, and as such will have its own character. And the sun is shining.
That's nice to hear. It's sunny here as well at Riverside Park. Well, that's Alan Lorimer at Philiphaugh. I'm going to bring in Sam Matthews. He is at Pennypit at the moment, a big National 3 top-of-the-table clash. It's between Orkney and Preston Lodge. Preston Lodge top of the table, Orkney 3 games in hand. Let's join Sam.
That's right, Stuart. The top 2 are going head-to-head in National 3, and you could not get a closer level of competition. The Pennypit here is working itself up to the boil for the top-of-the-table matchup. Preston Lodge will obviously want revenge after they took a loss away at Orkney in the reverse of this fixture, and Orkney will be looking to cut into that points deficit they have ahead of their 3 games in hand. Preston Lodge boast only 2 changes in their pack and no changes in their back line, which manages to boast an incredible 857 caps between them. For Orkney, another long journey off the island, but they have come here ready to play, and they have warmed up with a vicious intensity, as they actually seem to have claimed 3/4 of the pitch for their warm-up, reducing Preston Lodge to behind their own post, so the mind games have already started. To give you an idea of how big today's game is, captain of Preston Lodge, Jack Gordon, was quoted in the East Lothian Courier saying it would mean everything for them to win this league, and this game is really what starts it off for their final part of the season. All action to come at 3 p.m.
Yeah, it's a good one, that one. Preston Lodge against Orkney in National 3, and you would feel that a Preston Lodge win in that one will just about do it for them. Right, some latest scores for you. In the Premiership, it's Curry 15, Edinburgh Accies 0. Tries by Charlie Brett and Jamie Forbes and DJ Innes. Heriots Blues 5, Glasgow Hawks 7 at the moment at Golden Acre. Musselburgh 14, Mar 22. Mar with the try bonus already. Tries from Jack Scott, also Conor Bickerstaff, Robbie Baird, and not sure who they've scored the 4th try, but they've definitely got a try bonus. And for Musselburgh, Paul Bogey and Sandy Watt, the try scorers at Stony Hill. International 1, it's currently GHA 19, Bigger 20, Glasgow Accies 21, Highland 5, Watsonian 7, Melrose 18, National 2, Falkirk 19, Berwick 0, Stirling County 17, Peebles 19. That's a bit close for comfort at the moment for Peebles fans. In National 3, it's Boroughmuir 21, West of Scotland 14 at half-time, and half-time score in Dunfermline, just across the Forth Bridge, it's Dunfermline 19, Strathmore 31. OK, well, shortly they'll be kicking off at Riverside Park for Jedforest against Kelso in the Premiership. So let's join up with our commentary team. It's Robin Purdy today, and first of all, a very good afternoon to Dale Clancy.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much, and welcome along to Riverside, where the sun is splitting the sky in what has been a relatively sombre, dark mood here at Riverside Park this season. It's been 13 months since Jedforest last tasted a victory in the Premiership, and they've got familiar rivals and foes this afternoon in Kelso, a team who are looking to try and secure 4th place and that final and cherished playoff position in the Premiership, in a game which would take them back to Mansfield Park to tackle Hawick in the Premiership playoffs, a thing that Stuart Cameron himself absolutely loves. But Jedforest, they're looking to try and get that victory, but also Kelso will be hoping to try and build that momentum that they've built over the last couple of weeks and take that and bounce on from a very, very impressive victory against Curry at Poynter Park last weekend. The two sides this afternoon are going to line up with Lewis Young at fullback. Brodie Irvine is going to be on the wing alongside Robbie Shearer-Gibb, with Owen Cranston and Gregor Young in the centres. Halfback pairing of Mark Glenn and Dom Buckley. We're in the front row, Jamie Ferguson and Harvey Keith are going to be packed down alongside David Campbell. In the second row, Clark Skeldon will captain alongside Hamish Stenhouse. In the back row of Gregor Law, Dan Wardrop and Ben Fotheringham. On the bench for Jedforest, Jamie Bowie, Robbie Thompson, Josh Lang, Lewis Elder and Robert Hogg. The visitors this afternoon, they're going to line up with Archie Barber at full-back, James Thompson and Robbie Tweedy on the wings, with Frankie Robson, Dwayne Patterson in the centres. Frankie Robson will captain the side, and he's been an impressive try-scoring form over the last couple of weeks. 2 tries in his last 2 games and 6 for the season. The half-back pairing of Andy Tate and Murray Hastie were in the front row. It's going to be Grant Shields, Ewan Knox and Terry Logan. The second row is going to be Ewan Thompson and Keith Melbourne. We're in the back row, Cammy Brown, Murray Woodcock and Bruce McNeil will be lined up alongside each other. Angus McGregor, Ashton Asante, James Glendinning, Cammy Thompson and Nick Stingle make up the rest of the squad as Frankie Robson just leads his Kelso troops out of the tunnel here at Riverside, where the grey skies almost come overhead as they emerge from the sheds. And alongside me this afternoon, Robin Purdy. This is an interesting game because it was close back in October between these two sides, but they're miles apart in terms of where they are in the leagues.
They certainly are, Dale. There's a massive gulf between them, both in sort of points difference, both in league points difference, but also just where they appear to be as clubs at the moment. Unfortunately for Jed, Kelso on an upward trajectory. They are absolutely flying at the moment. Last couple of games they've beat Curry, they've beat Mar quite comfortably, and here they are at Riverside Park this afternoon, needing a win to enhance their playoff chances, but they'll be looking for more than that. They'll be looking for the 5 points just to make things that wee bit easier when they travel to Glasgow Hawks in their last game. Yeah, big game, and obviously Heriots are playing Glasgow Hawks at the moment. Last we heard, Glasgow Hawks were in the lead, so it could be a job done this afternoon for Kelso. Kelso are going to be playing from left to right as we are sitting here in the commentary position adjacent from the main stand here. We're in the wee shed, the wee stand over on the far side, and Kelso playing their black and white hoop tops with the black shorts and the red and white hooped socks against a Jedforest side who'll be playing in pretty much the famous royal blue with the white sleeves across the shoulder with thin white hoops on the socks. And Dwayne Patterson is going to be the player to get us underway here, a player who's been instrumental for the Kelso so far this season, and he gets play underway. And we're off and running in a vital game for Kelso against their near rivals Jedforest, and they'll be hoping to upset the odds, get their first victory in almost 13 months and upset the apple cart and stop Kelso getting into the playoff positions. It's Jed who enjoy early territory. They get the ball in hand. Clark Skeldon is trying to break free from his own 22. Mark Glenn has to get there quickly to dispatch the ball. This time to Gregor Law, who's charging forward. Takes a couple of Kelso players to bring him down. Deep to Dom Buckley. Right-footed kick is charged down, and the Kelso players, in particular Cammy Brown, retreat back to get the ball. And Murray Hastie then spills it to Barber, who's had an impressive season. Dwayne Patterson spots some space and just stabs the ball downfield. And that's a good return from Kelso. A poor exit from Jedforest, but perhaps shows the confidence levels in the application to the game that both these sides have had this season. Yeah, they're actually started reasonably well. Jed, a carry each for Law and Skeldon, and you feel that if Jed are going to do anything in this game, then those two players have to have big games. But yeah, Patterson showed his class there, didn't he? He's made a good territorial gain for Kelso with that grubber down the park, and a wee bit early pressure for Jed to relieve. The man of two first names, Harvey Keith, to throw into the line out. Just on the 22, throws it to the tail. Clark Skeldon is hoisted high and is brought down, and the Jed players now congregate at them all. It starts to drive forward. It's been repelled somewhat by this Kelso side, and Buckley now punts it downfield, not finding touch, and it's been well gathered there by James Thompson. He spills the ball infield to Archie Barber, who sizes up his options. Thinks he sees some space back there, but that space has been covered by Lewis Young, making his 228th appearance in Jedforest colours. He returns it downfield to Dwayne Patterson. He wants to go on a mazy run and just wrong foots at Lewis Young, but the Jedforest players get back to try and protect this situation. And Kelso are now up towards the halfway line. Andy Tate travels with the ball and then finds Knox, but the referee is going to bring it back for a penalty. And again, just really good awareness and counter-attacking play from Kelso. And although they've got the ball's kicked towards them, they know what they're going to do in the counter-attack. And I think that's been a real strength for them this season, especially that back three of Tweedy, Thompson, and Barber, which has worked so well. Yeah, they look confident in the backfield, don't they? you're absolutely right. They know what they're going to do, and that's a raking touch finder by Dwayne Patterson there, who I have to say kicked beautifully from hand last week against Curry. He didn't have his best day from the tee, but yeah, Kelso now with a great attacking position from which to try and launch something.
Yeah, they've not had the best success rate with the kick, 61 tries this season, but only 36 conversions, so they have left a lot of points out on the field, but they'll be hoping that conversions are not going to come into it this afternoon as Robson just catapults himself into the Jedforest defence and round the corner charges a Terry Logan who is couched onto the ground, and the ball spills free, and it's then returned downfield, and that's a raking kick from Young. And there's Lewis Young again, and Barber manages to get the ball in field, and now some great footwork centre field from Tweedy. Does well to evade the first couple of challenges. Tate gives it to Patterson, tries to manipulate that 2-on-1. Now he's through, and now it's a 1-on-1. He's got some support there, and it's James Thompson, and he's going to scamper in for the first score, but it's all about Dwayne Patterson's footwork to manipulate that situation. Big left-handed fend, and they made that 2-on-1 situation down the stand side, and he could just release James Thompson for the opening try here, and it's his second try this season. It's his 12th game, but it's going to be an important one if Kelso want to get the bonus point victory that they so crave.
Yeah, they look so accomplished in possession, Kelso, and that'll be a big confidence boost for James Thompson. He missed a bit of an open goal with one last weekend, but that's him up and running this afternoon. But you're absolutely right. It's the finishing of the good work from Dwayne Patterson at this level. He's just a Rolls Royce of a player.
No, he's brilliant. He is a phenomenal player. He's currently just popping the ball onto the tee, just outside of the 22, about 7 metres in from the wee stand side here at Riverside, as it gets a little bit darker overhead. It's got a slightly cooler. The sun is
you mentioned the sun just before kickoff. It's long gone.
It's departed, and the defence from Jed departed there temporarily as well, because 4 minutes in, Kelso have taken a 5-point lead here at Riverside Park. Conversion coming up from Dwayne Patterson. Slowly taking his time, sizing up the sticks here. Right-footed kick, it'll angle itself away, but it's looking good off the tee, and the flags are hoisted high, and it's a full complement of 7 points for Kelso, and it's a dream start for them.
It most certainly is. And speaking of the conference, coming back to Thompson, Dwayne Patterson as well, as I mentioned earlier, he's not had his a whale of a time with it recently from the tee, but that was a beautiful strike, and that'll do his kicking from the tee conference no harm at all.
17 games so far this season. 4 tries, 12 penalties, and that's his 37th conversion, so he's got every single conversion that Kelso have had so far this season. Restart from Jedforest is kicked straight to Murray Hastie, and the development officer for Kelso kicks it back downfield, and it's been gathered by Fotheringham. And then Young has been asked to try and find the gap in this Kelso defence, which has been difficult to breach all season. The ball's slow coming out of that ruck as Jedforest are enjoying a little spell with the ball in hand inside Kelso territory for the first time. Robbie Shearer-Gibb runs back into traffic. Terry Logan then body slams him to the ground. Glenn back to Buckley. Buckley's got a charging Dan Wardrop trying to just thrust forward into that Kelso defence, and again it stands firm. That black and white wall is finding it very hard to breach so far. The kick from Buckley, and that's a raking kick as well. It's just gone over the head of Barber, and it's going to dribble out 5 metres away from the Kelso line, and Buckley has just sized that one up and just curled it round, and that's a brilliant kick from Buckley.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the AR to signal what way this line is going to go, because where was Buckley when he kicked that? Was he in?
I think they went back into their own half. The last phase of play, I think, was just inside the Kelso half.
It's a Kelso line, but nonetheless, Dale, you're absolutely right. That was a beauty from Buckley. His first of the afternoon was charged down, but he's made up for it there. I see he's doing a Bundy a key today as well with no number on his back.
Yes, he certainly is, just to try and keep us on our toes. But unfortunately for Dom Buckley, we know him pretty well, so he's certainly not going to be a shrinking violet in this game. Kelso successful from that line out. They're trying to just steady the ship and go through their repertoire to exit inside of their own 22. Woodcock, who's been an impressive player for Kelso this season, tucks the ball underneath his arm and has a little foray forward. They're about 8 metres away from their own try line, Kelso, at the moment, and trying to use a bit of the heavy artillery to secure the platform, but Knox is almost stripped on the ground, and Woodcock has to sweep up on the deck. But Kelso eventually managed to manipulate the penalty, and they win it, which will give them an easy exit here. But you could hear the scream, the frustration, and I'm assuming that's a Jed player over the ref mic, because Jed have Kelso in a good position, give away a penalty, and it just gives an easy out for Kelso.
I was going to say, it's very, very cheap for Kelso in terms of their ability to exit here. They were going nowhere really. They were still in possession, hemmed in tight to their own corner, but Patterson's sent that down the field, and now it'll be a Kelso line out. And again, they Kelso, you feel, look dangerous from anywhere this afternoon. Yeah, Kelso, looking at the two teams, there's been 49 players used for Jedforest so far this season, 33 for Kelso, and there's an element of consistency around this side. Last time I watched Kelso away from home, there's only been one change, and that's been a change from the bench into the starting lineup, and the starting lineup dropping to the bench. It was the Thompsons who have changed positions in the middle row. So there's consistency in this Kelso team, and they certainly look dangerous, and they look like they know how to go about their duties. And Andy Tate now gives the ball to Frankie Robson. He wants to try and go back to some cosier territory where the forwards are congregated. Bruce McNeil then picks and goes through the heart of that ruck over the 10 metre line now. As the GAYT join us in the back of the stand here. Patterson looks up, finds it and stabs the ball over Lewis Young's head, but he's watching that like a hawk. Gets it in the 22, takes his time, right footed kick and hacks it downfield, and he's going to get just in between the 10 metre line and the halfway line here, across from the wee stand. And again, Kelso from the penalty just get outside their own 22, go through a couple of phases, nothing too flashy, kick downfield, and then they get a throw into the line out inside Jed territory. Really good game management. Yeah, brilliant, almost pragmatic rugby. This early in the game, it's all about territory for them, and yeah, it was just maybe a wee bit too easy. That there's some of the carries, Bruce McNeil involved, just made a wee bit more, of a gain than Jed would have liked. Having a quick chat with one of the Kelso fans just before the start of this game about Bruce McNeil, saying he can't go on forever, but he looks as fit as he ever has. He does, doesn't he? He does, he definitely does. He's played 15, got 11 tries so far this season. You won't be surprised he's got 4 yellows as well, but he's now just in the heart of this driving maul, which is charging forward. It splinters away, and the maul makes its way closer towards that 22. Tate does well to shovel the ball to Hastie. Hastie gives it to Patterson. Kelso are stretching the field here. Get it across to Tweedy. He's looking to have a little bite at this Jed defence, but gets up towards the 22. Tate does well to get over and dispatch the ball to Woodcock. He goes inside the first defender. It takes another couple to bring him down. Kelso now inside the 22. Andy Tate goes against the grain. He tries to spill the ball to Tweedy again, who does well to try and keep it in. And Kelso now having to try and do well to keep the ball alive. James Thompson now with the ball in hand, and takes the ball into contact, and the referee gives the penalty. But again, it's as easy as you like for Kelso. They're able to keep that defence honest from Jedforest. They're asking loads of questions, but if it wasn't for that loose pass from Tate, perhaps Kelso could be a little bit closer to this Jed line. That's right, Dale. Kelso, it's hard to tell if it's Kelso just so good in possession or if it's just a wee bit too easy for them. But at the moment, dare I say, it looks a wee bit more like a cup game than a league game. This Kelso throwing a bit of caution to the wind, kicking to touch, and it's going to be a throw in to the line out. And it's deep inside Jedforest territory. There's a little bit of a conversation, and I can also see that Robbie Thompson looks like he's come onto the field for Jedforest, donning number 16 on his back. We're here. Stay line it. So, Jedforest line up now alongside their Kelso counterparts. Throw into the line out. Knox finds Brown. Brown's brought down. The maul then looks to form, but Brown has to pirouette out of road, but he goes into trouble because the referee signalled a penalty to Jedforest for crossing there. A little bit of a mix-up. The ball carrier when he turns around at the front. A little bit of a mix-up at that line out there for Kelso, and it's an easy out now this time for Jed. Yeah, and it's a let off for Jed there because you'd have fancied Kelso probably knocks at the tiller on that one. There's every chance he would have flopped over. So yeah, Jed have got away with one there, and they've managed to get a bit of territory from the relieving kick downfield. It's not a bad kick actually, down from their own line pretty much to about the 10 metre line. So their first real chance of note from which to launch their own attack. It was a scruffy kick from Buckley, but it made some good distance, and that's exactly what Jedforest will be wanting as they throw into this line out. And Brown is up like a salmon and just flaps that back, and then Hastie left-footed kick stabs it in the air, and this is going to be a challenging one for Fotheringham on to gather. He does a good job. I think that's Robert Hogg who's now on for Jedforest, it looked like.
He made a good run, good ground there. And now it's a Kelso ball. They're charging forward now. Frankie Robson with ball in hand. Andy Tate thinks he spots some space in behind, just stabs it over the head of Lewis Young, who's having to scamper back towards his own goal line. He's got Barber and he's got Thompson for company, but dots the ball down. And I can confirm that Robert Hogg is on for Jedforest. One of the most experienced players, 225th appearance in Jed colours for him, and that's impressive, seeing as he's had a couple of years out as well.
Oh yeah, I think when you've played that number of games, you've earned the right to wear boots like that as well, don't you?
I didn't even spot the boots, but I'll be keeping a keen eye out on them now. Yes, they're highlighter pen yellow. Is from the goal line dropout. It's just kicked straight down the throat of Patterson. Patterson then feeds it to Tweedy. Then Melbourne. His hands are across to Woodcock, who's hugging the touchline. He steps back in field. Then the one-handed offload to Patterson, who is there in support. The Kelso players get there quickly, but off their feet almost.
I don't need your advice.
And that's not from me. I think he was talking to a Jed player there. It looked like one of the Kelso players was off their feet, but the knock-on was there first. And we get a little glimpse of Robert Hogg in his lovely yellow boots from just in front of us, on our little screen that we can help see the close attritional action here at Riverside Park in this important game. Just a reminder, it's 14 minutes gone. It's currently Jedforest 0, Kelso 7, but it's been one-way traffic so far, Robin, and it's been an interesting game. But Kelso certainly look like they're a team that are really focused on getting that fourth place position.
That's right. They look like they've got something to play for as well, which they obviously have. Jed, of course, desperately want to win, and there's a big crowd here at Jed this afternoon. A lot of Kelso fans as well. It's kind of quite an emotional day here at Riverside. Obviously, you mentioned the tragic passing of Keith Park, but there's also a bit of a memorial day out for the late great Barry Hughes, who sadly was taken far too young just before Christmas. The ex-player here.
Yeah. Scrum put in now for Jedforest, and that might be, it's moments like this that perhaps just raise the performance levels of some players. And Jedforest, 50 minutes gone, will probably be happy. It's only 7-0 at the moment. It's been the lion's share of possession, and territory has gone the way of the visitors from Poynda. Currently occupying fourth place in the division, 1 point above Edinburgh Accies, who are a team that have only got one game left to play. Kelso, a couple of points above Heriots Blues, who last time we heard were trailing at home to Glasgow Hawks, who Kelso play in their final game. Don Buckley now kicks downfield, relieves the pressure, and it'll be a throw into the line out for Kelso. Still inside Jedforest territory, but it's still Jedforest 0, Kelso 7.
Quick update for you. Premiership, it's Curry 22, Edinburgh Accies 5, Heriots Blues 10, Glasgow Hawks 7, Musselburgh 21, Mar 32, and Selkirk 3, Hawick 7 in the Premiership.
The change in scoreline at Goldenacre makes things interesting here as well, and it'll take the race to the playoffs down to the last day. What an important game that will be for those sides. Hastie now deploys the ball to Robson, who's charging forward and certainly taking his captain duties very seriously and leading from the front as Tate then finds Logan. He's also scored 2 tries in his last couple of games and just bundles over a wanting Jedforest tackler. Hastie travels with the ball, gives it to Barber. Barber's got Shearer Gibb for company, but does well to ride the challenge and get his knees to the ground and look to present this ball back. He's going to have to try and contort his body into some strange positions to allow that, but does well. Shields and Logan almost cross in. The referee lets that one play. No Jedforest defenders there occupying that space as Bruce McNeil now just splinters through the heart of the Jedforest ruck. Not for the first time in this game, as Tate looks to deploy the ball to Thompson. Does well to control the ball under some immense pressure. Logan carries forward again, puts it on a plate for Tate. Tate then gives it to Patterson, who's clattered but is able to dispatch the ball to Tweedy. Kelso now looking to try and control this ball. It's a tip on from McNeil to Knox, who's charging forward, but the referee has just said that the ball has just travelled slightly forward there from Bruce McNeil. But again, Kelso, similar as to what they did a few weeks ago. I know you were at Poynda Park for the Curry game, but at Rayburn Place for the Edinburgh Accies encounter, they were keeping the ball, they were building phases, and they look confident that they can keep the ball for long periods of time.
They do. They're very comfortable in their own skin at the moment. What are we, 17 minutes into this game, and the amount of possession and territory that they've got, Dale, you just wonder when that second try is going to come for them. But yeah, they look the good side that they are at the moment.
Yeah, and not to write off a game too early or a contest, but you feel that second try could be a right sucker punch for Jedforest, because they're on the ropes at the moment. They're under a bit of pressure, and you feel that could be the kind of the moment which might just relieve them of that little bit of extra pressure that they've got just now. And Kelso could certainly go on and build up a handsome scoreline. But to put into the scrum, it's under pressure from Kelso, but picked up well at the back from Fotheringham. He's under pressure from Tate. So Kelso are able to put a bit of pressure on this Jedforest side. Skeldon looks to pick and go. He's knocked on as well. And that's unfortunate for the Jedforest captain, because it's going to give the ball back to a dominant Kelso scrum in a favourable position inside the Jedforest 22. And a little slap of the hand from Tate to Brown, and a conversation with Hastie. And I think they're trying to figure out what dance moves they're going to deploy here at the disco inside the 22, because they've got a good opportunity from the right hand side here to ask some questions of this Jedforest backline.
Yeah, it's a great position. That is, if they get it. You know, there's quite a disparity, I would say, at scrum time here, which could culminate in a Kelso penalty, which you'd imagine would go in the corner. There's a couple of young lads propping for Jed today, and all credit to them rather, stepping up. David Campbell, I think he's only 18, just up from Jed Thistle.
Scrum comes down, quick grab of the jerseys, the referee's instructions, and then they clatter together as Tate feeds the scrum. It then squeezes forward, and Kelso are looking to try and turn the screw here. The referee has signalled he wants that to be popped in again. He's just having a conversation with the respective front rows. He's going to have a little look at the other side, and
I went too quick.
He's just admitted that he perhaps was part of the issue there.
Okay, quickly jump in with some National 1 latest scores. GHA 29, Biggar 25, Glasgow Accies 28, Highland 5, and Watsonians just taking the lead against Melrose. Watsonians 21, Melrose 18. International 2, Falkirk 31, Berwick 7. They have the try bonus in the bag. Stirling County 17, Peebles 26. Peebles have the try bonus in the bag as well, but they've got to see out the game for both of them. And in National 3 at the moment, Boroughmuir 42, West of Scotland 14, and Preston Lodge 3, Orkney 7.
Scrum comes together, and second time of asking. Tate rolls into the tunnel, it squeezes forward again, perhaps a little bit easier this time, but grounds to a halt, so it's been picked up at the tail by Brown. He's on his skates now as well, as the ball filters across to Barber, and he splinters through, dives over the line, and it's a first phase try for Kelso. And the work rate off the ball was asking loads of questions of this Jedforest defence, and then Archie Barber was the player who could just hair in for his 7th try of this Premiership season. He's played 17 games, and he has been a real find for this Kelso side. And it was as easy as you like, a steady scrum, solid scrum, and you could see the number 8, Cammy Brown, who was in that position, bursting off. Just keeps that Jed defence honest, and it allows that space for Barber to squeeze over.
Oh yeah, it's like they had runners all over, options all over the place. And yeah, young Barber, I believe he works really hard at his game from what I've heard, and he gets better and better every week, and he probably gets a wee bit bigger and bigger every week as well. He's starting to fill out, but he's still got that pace, and he showed it there.
Aren't we all? We're all getting a bit bigger and bigger every week. Yeah, it's a chance now for another classy player to try and add some additional points. We did see that second try was going to be pivotal. It's going to be important in this game. It's went the way of Kelso. 12 points to the good. 21 minutes gone. And now the right-footed kicking attempt off the tee from Patterson. Slow staggered run up. A soft stroke with that right leg, and the flags are up this time. He's maybe been a bit patchy from the tee so far this season, but he's been impeccable so far. One from the left, one from the right. It's 14 points to 0, and it's Kelso who are hunting down that 4th position with intent.
They certainly are. They'll possibly have one ear on what's happening at Golden Acre. Harriet's not having it all their own way there by the sounds of things, but Kelso certainly having it all their own way thus far at Riverside.
Buckley howks it into the sky, and Brown waits underneath and casually takes it, a little step off his feet, and he's a player who's adjusting to life in the back row, and he's doing it with ease as Hastie looks to try and kick clear. Buckley was breathing down his neck, but the ricocheted ball ends up in the hands of Barber, then Patterson, then the kick downfield, and Young is having to get back, and he's under a lot of pressure from Patterson and Woodcock and Thompson, who are there. And Jedforest are going to have to do a good job to try and recycle themselves and get back into a position where they can protect this ball. They do well initially. It's the charge forward from Robbie Thompson, a towering player. He just rides the challenge and sets up the platform. Glenn gives it to Fotheringham, and off the deck. That's a beautiful ball. It splinters this defence for probably the first time of this game, as Young looks to break free. He's up to the halfway line now, and Glenn travels with the ball. He's asking questions of this Jedforest, this Kelso defence. The Jedforest scrum half is Wardrop gives the ball to Buckley, and now it's swashbuckling moving now from this Jed backs as Young links up with Hogg. He's got some support inside. He's got Shearer Gibb. It was almost behind him, but Shearer Gibb is going to pin back the lugs, and Jedforest replies straight away, and what a try that was. It was great play, and it all started from deep inside the Jedforest half with that offload. And Robin, you can take it from here.
Oh yeah, what a wonderful try. You won't see many better than that this afternoon, this weekend, that's for sure. Robbie Shearer Gibb finished it off, but there were numerous contributions in there. Dom Buckley, Mark Glenn a couple of times. Young was involved as well, and that'll give Jed a great boost for the rest of this game, because it's the first time they've showed any real attacking intent, and they carved Kelso open.
Yeah, it was the offload there, but I do think
Fotheringham, yeah.
But you mentioned Buckley there. Sorry, it was almost like he just went, I just want to take this. I want to just have the ball. He ghosted him behind the ruck, just took the ball in a position and was able just to spread the pitch. And after that, it was good supporting play from the Jedforest backs. And Buckley, the aforementioned fly half, no number on his back, is going to take the conversion attempt on the 22, right-footed kick towards the uprights here, and the flags go up, and now it's a 7-point game. The ex-Kelso player gets the 2 points, and he was perhaps instrumental in getting that try for Jedforest. And now 25 minutes gone here, it's Jedforest 7, Kelso 14.
And a shout out there for Robert Hogg as well. Let's not forget he was busting a gut, played his part in that one. I actually thought he was maybe going to go in at the corner, but don't know if the old hamstrings tightened up there, but he had the awareness to come back inside, and it was finished off by his winger. But fair play to Hogg there.
Yeah, good link-up play from Hogg. I don't think he was fancying the foot race to the corner. A brilliant player, a brilliant servant to this club as well. And great to see him back out there on the pitch as Kelso from the restart. They're able to benefit from the bouncing ball, and Bruce McNeil then barrels himself forward. Ball rolls out of that breakdown, and so does Andy Tate, because he is just under a world of pressure there. The referee is going to bring that back, but perhaps not as well protected at that breakdown as Kelso would have liked. But they get to put into the scrum here, and again another good position for Kelso to attack from. It opens up these backs again. They put into the left hand side of the scrum. Will give the backs that nice attacking platform on the right hand side. Yeah, and they look confident this afternoon. They always think Kelso, when I've seen them this season, they've got a brilliant blend in their back line. You know, they've got the hard straight running of Frankie Robson. He only knows one way, but they've got all the silky stuff from the likes of Patterson, the likes of Barber. But their two wingers are maybe unsung a wee bit, but every time they've got hands on the ball, they pump the legs and they go forward as well. So yeah, they've got a good blend. Archie Barber with his second try against Jedforest this season. He's just nestled in between Frankie Robson and Thompson at the moment on the 10 metre line. It's a flat Kelso back line. It's almost a defensive looking Kelso back line, but it's not going to be defensive at all, because the ball is now in the hands of Patterson, and it's a flat ball to Barber, and he trips over his own shoelaces because he was straight through there, and it was just a matter of footwork to try and get over the try line. But it's been recycled well. Cammy Brown then hares back inside and looks to try and break free of the Jedforest clutches. Tate, ball in hand, gives it to Thompson. He pirouettes out of trouble. He's got a chance for an offload, not going to need it because he's over for a try. And Ewan Thompson gets the score, and it's an instant reply from Kelso. And they stretch their lead here. 7 points to 19, they lead. Ewan Thompson take a bow. He... there'll be few more improved players in the club game than him this season. He stepped up from National 2, Berwick, and he now looks to the manner born. As I said to him last week, man of the match against Curry. Finished that one beautifully, largely in part or after the good work of Barber, who almost got a wee bit of a nosebleed after the kind of parting of the Red Sea. It's almost like he kind of had too many options available to him. But Kelso, efficient, ruthless. They've gone right back up the park from conceding the score, and they've scored another themselves, and they're 3/4 away to minimally bonus point territory. Conversion attempt coming up for Kelso. Dwayne Patterson with the conversion attempt. Just outside the 22, right-footed kick in front of the small stand. Again, similar to his first effort. Skull cap is off for the kicks, Matt Gitto style. He just clears his face with his left hand and has a last couple of glances up at the uprights. A slow, staggered, steady run up in the right-footed kick, and it's curling away from the uprights this time. And it just glances in front of the post, so it's 2 from 3 for Dwayne Patterson. He gets his scrum cap back from the young assistant who's brought the tee on for Kelso, and it stays 19 points to 7. But on the balance of play, you'd probably say that's relatively fair.
Oh, I would say so. Yeah, sub on for Kelso as well. Angus McGregor's come on, but absolutely, you're right, Dale Kelly. It's other than Jed's breakaway try from almost throwing 22, it has been all Kelso.
Replacement, as we say, Angus McGregor on. I think it looks like perhaps is it Grant Shields who's departed. I'm just trying to scan the park quickly from the restart and see if Grant Shields is still on the pitch. It doesn't look like he is, as the ball's passed back to Murray Hastie. He kicks it high into the sky, and I think that Kelso are just wanting to try and keep this ball in play. Mark Glenn was underneath that. He gives the ball to Lewis Young, and Lewis Young is straight through. He's just palmed off the first defender, then goes through a couple of challenges, rolls over the ball inside of the Kelso 22. It's been plucked up by Hogg again. He gives it to Wardrop, and Wardrop is then tackled inside Kelso territory. Skeldon out the back to Buckley. Buckley throws an outrageous dummy, and then he is shackled by Woodcock. Glenn gets to the breakdown. He then passes back to the right hand side to Gregor Young, who has to throw a dummy this side because of the flatness of his supporting players. The ball has been presented back again brilliantly from the experienced outside centre. It's then broke free from the ruck. Skeldon carried forward. It just came out at a rate of knots, and when it's looked to be gathered by the Jedforest side, they've knocked on and then they've mouthed back and they've conceded the penalty.
Yeah, again, cheap, allowing Kelso to exit cheaply. There was a little knock on in there, but it was really good play again by Jed, in fairness. An outrageous dummy, Fijian style from Buckley, and Kelso have gone quickly here.
Yep, they wanted to go quickly, and they asked the question. They said, can I go? And the referee said, if you want, because they noticed on that far side there was a little bit of a mismatch, and it's Tweedy now looking to try and break free because that pass from Barber didn't go to plan. It was an old traditional grubber pass as Brown has given the ball and bundles. I think he's had a terrific season so far in the back row, converted from the wing, and now Patterson looks to stab the ball over the top, sizing up his options. Shearer Gibb is there, and he's watching that just trundle off the field of play under a bit of pressure from Thompson. Shearer Gibb maybe looking to take this quickly, a push as well. The fights between the backs is never as entertaining as it is between the forwards, is it, Robin?
Nah, and none of them are entertaining nowadays compared to the days of yore. Better shirt pulling here and there.
It's hard enough to pull the shirts the way they are nowadays.
It is, yeah.
They're almost lycra-esque.
It is, and we're getting a good view of them here right in front of our vantage point. Look for a second there that, Bruce McNeil did have the medic on, but she's departed the scene and he's back in the lineup, which is good to see.
Yeah, I think after about half an hour he always demands a Werther's original at his old age now. And so they've come on, they've given him that, and he's lining up at this line out. A little conversation at the line out there from David Campbell and Harvey Keith. Ball hoisted above his head just metres in front of us. It's been thrown to Skeldon. He just flaps it off the top to Glenn, and then Buckley and bringes it forward. And great offload as well, gives it to an on-rushing Jedforest supporting player. Having to act as scrum half there is Hamish Stenhouse. Jedforest go a couple of metres to the right-hand side of their original breakdown and have to make some hard yards as Fotheringham has just folded back into the original breakdown. Buckley travels with the ball, it's just ricocheted forward, and there's a sarcastic cheer from the spectators there as Buckley looked to try and just find a little bit of space for a teammate. But Kelso, defensively again, pretty strong, but Jedforest are certainly asking those questions, trying to move the point of contact, and when they do get expansive, they do look dangerous.
Oh, they do, yeah, and Buckley's been at the heart of it all. That was a mistake by him, which was loved by the Kelso Ultras at the bottom end there, but he's been Jed's best performer for me so far this afternoon, Dale. He looks bang up for it.
There's no pyrotechnics or banners being unfurled by the Kelso Ultras, but there is a pocket of Kelso fans, perhaps just friendly banter between their ex-clubmate Don Buckley, who used to be draped in the Kelso colours in years gone by, also played for Hawick as well. Now back for Jedforest, and he's making his 33rd appearance in Jedforest colours. The scrum not going to plan this time. The referee is going to bring it back and set it up, but the score still remains here. It's Jedforest 7, Kelso 19.
Latest in the Premiership, it's Curry 29, Edinburgh Accies 10, Heriots 10, Glasgow Hawks 14, which helps Kelso, of course. Musselburgh 21, Mar 39 now. Here it's, of course, Jedforest 7, Kelso 19 and Selkirk 3, Hawick 12. Hawick have added a try there. In National 1, GHA 29, Biggar 25, Glasgow Accies 35, Highland 12 and Watsonians 28, Melrose 25. Still waiting to hear from Mayfield for Dundee against Gala. In National 2, Falkirk 31, Berwick 14 and Stirling 24, Peebles 40.
Ball plucked up at the tail from Bruce McNeil at the base of that scrum. He's went laterally across the pitch and it allows Tate to give the ball to the replacement there, Angus McGregor. He carries forward and he makes a good 5 yards, and then Logan, who's just been catapulted into contact there. It was brilliant, but the referee is flashing a yellow card and it looks like there's going to be a sin bin there for one of the Jedforest players, and I'm trying to figure out who it.
Oh, he swore.
Push and verbals. I'm trying to figure out, still can't see who's been asked to leave.
Fotheringham, possibly.
I think it perhaps is. He's looking a bit perplexed in front of the dugout area, but he's not got far to travel because he just has to take a couple of steps. He's now sitting down, but it is Ben Fotheringham.
Industrial language that, but I think we picked up over the mic.
Yeah.
I spoke to your captain.
Unbelievable that the ref mic goes on and off and it picks up stuff like that, doesn't it? But it's a yellow card for Jedforest. Ben Fotheringham is the player who's been asked to leave for mouthing back and using foul language. So Jedforest are going to have to see out this first half and start the second with 14 men. The throw into the line out for Kelso now, gathered by Cammy Brown. They've been brought down, and this is going to be harder to repel for this Jedforest side with a man down. They've got a good bit of length to this maul, and it's protected for Knox, who just lays the ball out on a platter for Tate to walk forward. He's got 2 hands on the ball, but he's also got Clark Skeldon for company. He manages to shackle the Kelso scrum half, and he's engulfed by royal blue shirts, but Kelso do well to secure the ball, but it's been knocked forward as Keith Melbourne fumbles as he tries to make a foray forward for the Kelso cause, but it's going to come back for a scrum. And it looked really impressive, that driving maul. I thought it perhaps still had a little bit of legs on it if it could keep going towards that right hand side, but
yeah,
it was probably, for me, it was brought out a little bit too soon.
Possibly, but I think what maybe happened there is a wee bit of space had opened up at the side of the maul, and I think Andy Tate had noticed that, and I think he fancied it, and there was a wee bit of a captain's knock from big Clark Skeldon to haul, to get his big mitts on him and haul him back in, because I would have fancied Tate to just scoot through that and possibly under the posts.
Latest score, Curry 36, Edinburgh Accies 10, Heriots 10, Glasgow Hawks 19 now. 3 tries for Glasgow Hawks, which of course is playing into the hands of Kelso. Musselburgh 26, they've got a try bonus. Mar 39, here it's Jedforest 7, Kelso 19 and Selkirk 3, Hawick 12, a latest score.
Interesting scores from across the country. Getting to the business end of the season, it's so interesting to see the different results coming in. The surprises are still coming in thick and fast across the national game, and we'll bring you exclusive updates from those games throughout the afternoon as the scrum has been challenged there by Kelso. Managed to try and get over the ball. Glenn now has to do a great job to sweep that ball up. He's been wrapped up there by Andy Tate, but eventually he's been protected by his Jedforest teammates. You can see a Jedforest hand in there. It's Wardrop trying to get to grips with that ball. It's not actually, it's Harvey Keith who manages to pluck the ball up, and now Robbie Shearer Gibb fancies going on a little sprint forward. He does well to break the first challenge from Patterson, but Thompson does well to eventually bring him to ground. Shearer Gibb is the Jedforest try scorer so far in this game. Now Buckley, who was instrumental in that opening try, rides the challenge of Woodcock and then offloads off the deck to Glenn. He almost splinters through, but the referee is going to bring that back for a penalty. Frankie Robson has just handbagged Mark Glenn. There's a little bit of a conversation from the assistant referee as well to the match official, Frankie Robson.
Here's a quick, interesting one for you. In National 1, it's ended Dundee 56, Gala 19. Dundee wagging their tails very well at the bottom end of the table.
Referee John Smith is going to have a conversation with the assistant referee about Frankie Robson's perhaps faux pas in there. I don't know if you got sight of that, but he's already got 2 yellow cards so far this season, but
Yeah, and I do wonder if his third's coming here. It was WWE style body slam.
Oh, I love how you've updated it from WWF. That's the Pandas.
Yeah.
It's now wrestling. So Don Buckley gets the penalty. Just a few metres forward from the original position. Handy take. Patterson asking to cover the backfield. And Buckley just slices it forward, and Barber's underneath. This one does well to gather, then gives it to Tweedy. And Tweedy's got his eyes up, and then he just tucks the ball underneath his right wrist, and then has a mazy forward, looks to try and offload. Perhaps could offload that a little bit tidier, because he's just coughed up possession and given it back to Jedforest, albeit in a better position than perhaps the penalty would have given Jedforest originally. It's in front of the main stand here. It's going to be a throw into the line out.
And it's all over at Golden Acre, and Hawks have beaten Heriots 19 points to 10.
Wow, that is 19 points to 10, so no points for Heriots in that game. It means that there's a 2-point cushion between the sides as we speak. So if Kelso get the victory, they've nailed down 4th place, and they'll be playing Hawick in the playoffs.
With a game to go, and who would have seen that? Even at the start of today, all the smart money was on Heriots there at home.
I'll tell you, especially after the game last week against Hawick, I thought that was a game they potentially could have and maybe should have won in the end. But Kelso, the job's not done for them, and Terry Logan knows that, because he's just travelled a few metres, and there's a little bit of afters here on the deck. Clark Skeldon is having a bit on the ground. I don't know who that is. It's Ewan Knox.
Keith Melbourne literally just deliberately pulled a Jed player's shirt right up over their head and wandered away with an ear-to-ear grin on his face. That's about the extent of what you get nowadays.
It was on the ground. I think that there's going to be a job here for the other assistant referee to be involved, and John Smith is just asking the players just to get out of the road. And then he's going to be having a little chat. Frankie Robson's there quickly waiting to get the play back underway, back to Patterson, but the match officials are going to have a conversation here. So just a reminder of an update of that result. If you're just joining us, as Heriots have been beaten at Golden Acre by Glasgow Hawks, 10 points to 19. And I'm not Rachel Riley, but I can do the maths that there's no bonus points for Heriots. So the 2-point cushion, and Kelso now hold all the cards. And 4th place is theirs to lose. The match official.
Showing your young age there, Dale Addis said Carl Verdum.
Whatever you're into. John Smith is going to have a conversation with the two captains here.
Everybody wants to.
He's just
Discipline has to be better across the field, alright? Neither of the 3 of us.
Ref Mike just dropping out there, but I think that's a wise call from the match official to perhaps just lay his cards out and say that let's make sure this doesn't boil over. Let's keep it as a rugby match, because there's the danger that it can become a bit disjointed, and for the neutral and for those watching on that want to watch a game of rugby, you know, it can perhaps become a little bit unsavoury.
Yeah, it's just getting a wee bit spicy out there. It's Jed v Kelso at the end of the day. First time at Riverside in the top division for over 20 years, so you'd kind of expect nothing less. But he's done pretty well there, the referee, just to keep a lid on it. He doesn't want to be flashing too many more cards.
The scrums, the respective scrums, just join each other on the halfway line. The Jed players with the Wardrop's right knee, heavily strapped, is just planted on the halfway line. Now raises as the scrums get ready to lock horns. Early engagement there from Kelso. So it's going to be a free kick to Jedforest. And there's a little bit of afters there as well. Bruce McNeil pretends he's going on amazing, but I think he knows fine well that the free kick was going Jedforest's way. Maybe buying his teammates some time, but Robert Hogg now has taken the quick free kick, and he runs laterally across the park. He palms off Woodcock and then offloads the ball to Gregor Young. There's a bit of a throwback of a partnership there from years gone by. Young and Hogg linking up in the centres for Jedforest. Glenn now tips the ball on to David Campbell. He's challenged on the 10-metre line. Glenn passes back to Buckley. He tries to stab the ball over, but Terry Logan is there. They didn't really get much higher than about 6 feet there from Dom Buckley, so it was easy to gather, but the penalty was coming away for the home side, and another chance to kick downfield. But Jedforest are doing pretty well with 14 men.
I was just about to say, Dale, they're digging in, aren't they? With 14 men, they're almost going a wee bit better with 14 than they did with 15.
They'll be maybe shouting instructions to the bench to say, don't bother coming back on, keep it at 14. But they have been. I think sometimes it galvanises a side, doesn't it? And Jedforest have certainly played impressively well down to 14 men, and I think they know that the scoreline's pretty tight, and a pop at the post from quite a lengthy position here, just in front of the 10-metre line, and perhaps a metre or so in from the 15-metre line. Don Buckley's going to have a stab at the post, but that's probably a wise decision.
I'm not sure, Dale, to be honest. That, you know, Jed already relegated, nothing to play for. I possibly would have went down the touchline with this one, but you know, if he slots it over, it's a tricky kick. Then what do I know?
Buckley sizes this one up. Last look at the posts, and he takes a step back, right foot planted, then he plants the left and he strokes it with the right-footed punt there, and it just goes to the left-hand side of those uprights, and the referee tells us that that's the last play of the first half, and perhaps Jedforest knew that, and knew that if they could get 3 points and squeeze down the tunnel 9 points behind, they could make a fist of it in the second half. But they're going to start the second half still with 14 men, as Skeldon and McNeil have a conversation with the match officials as they all depart down the tunnel. But it has been an entertaining first half, you've got to say. Kelso certainly came out the traps really well with a try early on 4 minutes from Thompson. Barber doubled the advantage as well, because Patterson was at 100% from the tee for both those tries, but perhaps the try of the game came from Robbie Shearer-Gibb. It was ignited from a great offload from Fotheringham, who was later yellow carded. Shearer-Gibb was the try scorer for Jedforest, but straight away Ewan Thompson replied for Kelso, and the scoring was done in the first half after 26 minutes, and after that it's been a bit of a tetchy affair. But they go down the tunnel here at Riverside Park, with Kelso looking to secure fourth place in the playoffs. They currently lead at Riverside Park. It's Jedforest 7, Kelso 19.
Thank you to Dale and Robin. We'll be back with them very shortly. Latest scores we have in the Premiership. It's Curry 36, Edinburgh Accies 10, Heriots Blues 10, Glasgow Hawks 19 is a result, so no points for Heriots Blues. That's going to definitely help Kelso. Musselburgh 26, Mar 39, that is a latest score. Jedforest 7, Kelso 19 here, of course, in the 3 o'clock kickoff is half time, and it's currently Selkirk 3, Hawick 19 in the other derby. 3 tries for Hawick over there. In National 1 it's ended. Dundee 56, Gala 19, GHA 36, Biggar 25, still playing at Hartree Mill. Glasgow Accies 35, Highland 19 is a full-time result at Anniesland, and a full-time result at Mireside. Watsonians protecting that home record. It's Watsonians 28, Melrose 25. International 2, it's all over at Sunnyside. Falkirk 38, Berwick 14, and Stirling County 29, Peebles 40 is a latest score. International 3, Boroughmuir 63, West of Scotland 21, that's a latest score. All over at Hillhead Jordan Hill 61, Cartha 14, and the latest at Pennypit, Preston Lodge 20, Orkney 12 is a latest score. Latest score in National 4 as well, Dunfermline 31, Strathmore 64. Well, as I said, second half commentary coming up between Jedforest and Kelso very shortly, but we're going down pitch side. Hugh Brown has got the president of Jedforest, Gordon Leach, with him.
I have indeed, Stuart. Gordon, welcome to Rugby Radio. So far this game isn't going your way, and perhaps that's the story of Jedforest's season.
It has been that like all season. You always live in hope that you can field the side that will maybe beat your opponents. Sadly, we haven't had this season. But the players through all the season have stuck in very, very well. A lot of young players in. The demise has maybe come from a lot of players that's been away abroad, 5 or 6 main first team players, but we've stuck in well, and we're sticking in well today.
But it's been tough for you to put out a good team, a full team, because last week you only took 16 players with you.
Yes, it's been very difficult through injuries and lack of players. Hopefully in the future, as we move down, we'll regroup. I think there'll be 30 young players coming up from the Thistle. Hopefully the next 3 years we can keep them all, but you know what young players like nowadays. They sometimes go to college or whatever, and you lose them. So we're hoping for better things.
How much of a disappointment is it for the club to be relegated to Division 1?
Well, it's not good. We've had a long history. We've always fought above our weight, always. See some of these clubs in here now, though. I mean, Curry, for instance, was having 65 players to train, and we were having 18 to 20. It's and you can't get a second team out. It's just a sad lack of players. That's all it is.
And is that because they're not feeding up through the school system?
That is a bit to do with it. And other things is a lot of players are moving away. The college, we have guys away on holiday or abroad. They're just not there. The players are not there. But we're foreign players are. It's all right getting foreign players, but they're expensive to keep. They're expensive to get. We're not a rich club, but we'll have to import odd players, I would think.
I was talking to Neil Hinnigan before this game, and he was saying, Kelso last week had 14 of their 15 players on the pitch were Kelso born and bred.
Yes, well, I take my hat off to Kelso because they stuck. They maybe were down there for 5 years, but they stuck with their Harlequins, their youth. And I think Jedforest is going to take a leaf out of their book and try to go the same way. We've got a great youth development officer in Michael Harshaw, and he's getting young lasses playing rugby, he's getting young lads playing rugby, so he's really helping a lot.
But you've not had the continuity of coaching this year. It's fair to say you've had 3 coaches doing it between them. You've not had one head coach. You've also advertised for a director of rugby. Yeah. Have you had any response to that?
Not really. As you say, it's the end of the season. We've got up to the start of the season to put things in place, and we're hopeful. We have 2 or 3 people in mind at the moment, and sounds a bit promising.
Well, let's hope that's the case. Are you optimistic then about Jedforest bouncing back to the Premiership next season?
No, I'm not. I would think Jedforest needs to be there in Division 1, and I think if you go down again at Division 2, well, we'll find a level where we can, and if you get a level and you start winning, maybe things will brighten up. You need confidence in players.
Well, I mean, you see today, and there's a great crowd here at Riverside supporting both teams, and that's the kind of thing that you really need to bolster the club, don't you?
Yes, and I must say, over the season, we've had a lot of retired guys come back to play, and they've really helped the younger players. We'd like to see that happen a lot more here. Ex-players, in 20 years, we've missed such a lot of players coming down here and coaching the younger players coming up, mentor, that sort of thing, and we've missed theirs. So hopefully this is going to start again. So I'm quite hopeful.
Well, we wish you well for for the future, and indeed for next season in National League Division 1. We'll certainly be covering Jedforest here on Rugby Radio, and I do appreciate you talking to me, because it's tough when you're on the way down. It's tougher to talk to the media, isn't it?
Well, it is a bit, and you have to tell the truth.
And you certainly did that, Gordon. I very much appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed.
Gordon
Leach, the president of Jedforest.
Thank you very much indeed to Hugh Brown.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio. Borders College is your local community college with qualifications recognised and valued by employers. To find out more, visit borderscollege.ac.uk today. Borders College, regionally focused, globally engaged.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
Borders water, Borders barley and Borders people. That's what makes the Borders Distillery. Working exclusively with local farmers, the Borders Distillery is bringing whiskey making back to the region. Our award-winning distillery is open to everyone, where you can meet the people behind the scenes, explore our wash house and shop quality local products. Tour your local distillery and discover the spirit of the Borders. Full details at thebordersdistillery.com. Always enjoy our spirit responsibly. Under 18s must be accompanied by an adult when visiting the Borders Distillery.
Your pet deserves the best, and that's why your pet deserves the care and treatment offered by Border Vets. We focus on delivering the very best care to each and every one of our patients and clients. We get to know you and your pet and offer treatments tailored to every animal's individual needs from our conveniently located surgeries in Galashiels, Selkirk and Earlston. Ask about our Pet Health Club for your cat or dog, giving you peace of mind by spreading the cost of vaccinations, regular checks and more. From dental care to travelling abroad and the whole range of veterinary services, bordervets.co.uk is where you'll find everything you need to know. Border Vets, where your pets are part of our family.
This is Rugby Radio, brought to you by Borders College.
Big match going on in National 3 at the moment. Preston Lodge against Orkney. Let's join Sam Matthews.
Half-time at the Penny Pit, and it is all going well for the hosts so far. Half-time score is 27-12, 3 tries to 1. They'll be looking to get that bonus point in the second half wrapped up as quickly as they can. The home side tries through Blair Robertson, Fraser Falgate and Scott Brown for the home side. Fraser Falgate kicking the conversions for his own. He missed the last one just on the stroke of half-time there. The first half has been all about this dominant forward pack for the home side of Preston Lodge. Josh O'Brien being particularly impressive in the boiler house for the home side. Second half to come. Preston Lodge 27, Orkney 12.
Second half here at Riverside.
Don Buckley gets the second half underway and just kicks it straight to Murray Woodcock, who does well to gather and scamper clear of his 22 metre line. I can see a replacement there for Kelso. Cammy Thompson, wearing number 19, is on the field of play as Tate passes back to Hasty. He's spotted some space over there, but it's been well plugged by Robert Hogg, who passes back to Lewis Young, who has to control it with his foot. Hogg wraps round to offer some support, but it's been stabbed through to Barber, and now ball in two hands. Sizing up his options, looks to stab it downfield, but it's been touched in flight, and Don Buckley is there waiting, looks to just chip it over the top, but loitering in behind is Andy Tate, doing well to sweep up. So Kelso make a territorial gain from that little bit of aerial tennis here. Hasty, acting as auxiliary scrum half, has dispatched the ball to Woodcock, who in slight in stature just stabs through the Jedforest tacklers. Hasty is up on his feet now and acting as scrum half again. McGregor carries forward, and now Thompson, who is the most latest try scorer for Kelso in the first half. A reminder that 7 points, 19 to the good. Hasty passes to Patterson. Patterson then finds Barber. Barber's got some options outside him, opts not to use them, and just swaggers back in field. He's been defended well again. The lightning fullback, he's a tenacious little wiry fullback, but he's done well in this game so far. Now McGregor has just been kneecapped just short of the 22 and bundles over, and he's done well to present that ball back, because then Tate finds Hasty. Hasty finds Woodcock. Woodcock is now on the outside, looks to try and get the offload in, but not able to. Buckley is all over that ball. He then couts to ground, so he's got to stop that attempt to turn over that ball. Thompson, Ewan Thompson, is tackled on the 22 metre line. Then Logan spills the ball as he travels forward, and again building the phases. But Kelso knock the ball on and give the ball back to Jedforest. But 2 minutes into the second half, it shows that I think Kelso know that if they get the bonus point in the bag, they're home and hosed for the playoffs.
Yeah, they'll be quite aware of what's happened at Goldenacre this afternoon. I don't think they would have thought in their wildest dreams that with the second half to go in this game, they'd already know what their destiny could be come the end of this game. So yeah, it's if Kelso get the next try, that will be the bonus. They'll leave with 1 point regardless, but you feel like they'll leave with 5.
Just to build it up, I know we've still got 40 minutes in this game, but the way that the season's gone, I don't think many people will think that I'm naive in saying that the thought of a potential semi-final in the playoffs between Hawick and Kelso at Mansfield Park is for me, it could almost be bigger than the final. But the scrum has been turned over here against the head, and McNeil finds Tate. Tate's got Barber outside him and now looking to try and manipulate the space. He filters it to Tweedy, and Kelso go in for that bonus point try. There was a challenge in there a little bit afters as well from Young, but the try has been awarded, and it was as easy as you like. But it's the pressure that comes on from that dominant forward pack turning over the ball against the head means that there's a space there for Tweedy to scorch in for a score. And the wingers have not scored a lot of tries so far this season, but they've both got on in the act this afternoon. And Robbie Tweedy gets his second try of the Premiership campaign.
He certainly has, and it was a good finish as well. He's still a bit of work to do, but you can chalk down probably an assist there to Terry Logan and young Angus McGregor in that front row, because they drove Jed right off the ball on Jed's own scrum, one against the head, and it's culminated in the try.
An impressive effort from the forwards there. And again, it was probably what was needed after Terry Logan's knock-on. He's certainly made amends, as I can also see that Ashton Asante is on for Kelso. Kelso ringing the changes and probably looking to try and get a bit of rugby in the squad. It's been consistent so far this season, 33 players used as opposed to 49 for Jedforest. And one of those players that have played in every single game is Dwayne Patterson. Sizing up the posts now, just hugging the touch line. A slow steady run up again, the right footed kick, looking to curl it round, just not able to get the curl enough onto that ball. The flight of the ball just drifts to the right hand side of the uprights, and it's a 50% kick rate for Dwayne Patterson this afternoon. But it means that Kelso still hold all the cards. It's Jedforest 7, Kelso 24.
It is, and I think Cammy Thompson at half time has come on, I think, Dale, for Keith Melbourne. He was, I think, 50-50 fitness wise before this one, and it was suggested to me pre-game by somebody from Kelso that if Kelso were up at half time, then they'd maybe give Melbourne the hook with, you know, bigger fish to fry as the season gets closer towards the business end. So it looks like he's taking a leave of absence, and probably rightly so if you're from a Kelso persuasion. I
think potentially from a Kelso point of view, they'll be putting him in a protective bubble for the next few weeks before the potential playoff semi-final against Toik, which is, I still can't get my head around. I think it's brilliant to think that Kelso, rising from National 1, have squeezed into that battle, and from that line out it's not went to plan for Jedforest. But I think it's a good opportunity for these Kelso players to get some rugby into their legs. They can make some changes. You know, we've got that experienced front row of Shields, Knox and Logan, which have pretty much played every single game, but it does give the likes of McGregor, Asante and Glendinning an opportunity, you know, to get some rugby against Jedforest, especially when the game is going the way it has been.
Yeah, 3 youngsters as well, and you know, giving them game time in the Premiership, full on adult rugby this is. So yeah, they're making really good use of their squad, Kelso, and they're bringing players through as the season progresses as well. And yeah, they just are in such a good place at the moment.
There's not a player in that starting lineup that's not played less than 11 games so far this season for Kelso, and in the pack now they're trundling forward at that scrum, and they've won the penalty. So the referee awards the penalty to Kelso, and Knox and Keith have a little bit of a coming together. Knox with a sarcastic laugh as they depart the scene, but that was a good bit coming together there of the two hookers, and perhaps I think Knox knew he got the upper hand at the scrum time anyway, so he could have a little bit of afters. But the kick from the penalty downfield, Patterson manages to kick it high into the sky, but it's went off the field of play, and it's going to be a throw, an attacking throw at the line out here for Kelso, and a chance to build on this lead. It's been an impressive start to the second half. Tweedy getting a try, the bonus point try for Kelso to add to the efforts of James and Ewan Thompson and Archie Barber in the first half. And Kelso know that a bonus point victory here at Riverside Park now will consolidate their position in 4th place, and they will be looking and sizing up a away semi against Toik for the Premiership crown. And who would have thought they would have been in that fight at the start of the season after 2 draws in the opening weekend. But Bruce McNeil from that driving maul charges forward. Buckley challenges him. Tate then finds Hastie. Hastie's got Patterson in support, looks to just throw it out the back door, but Robson takes it short and just flings himself into contact. Tate has got Brown coming round and peeling round the corner, offering himself up for a carry. And great engine this afternoon from Cammy Brown. Tate is shackled, can't get his feet, can't get up again. And he's almost like Bambi on ice there, trying to find his feet again, but does well to secure the ball. McGregor charges forward. He's been supported by a couple of Kelso teammates. Cammy Thompson then picks and goes straight through the heart of the ruck, makes a good 5 yards. Tate is there quickly, but Hastie gets there quicker. Patterson sizes up, he throws the dummy, he weaves his way in and out of traffic, and Swan dives over underneath the Kinlan for a try. And it was great play, but perhaps you can give a round of applause there to Cammy Thompson, because he made the hard yards in the heart of the Jedforest defence, and perhaps put them at panic stations. And then when Patterson's got that footwork and that evasive play, it's difficult to try and shackle him so close to the Jedforest defensive line.
Great play by them both. Yeah, Thompson, Neil Hennigan said pre-game that he felt a wee bit aggrieved to miss out against Curry last week, and he's looking to make his mark today. He certainly did so there, and that was just pure class from Patterson. The finish, off one foot, off the other, under the sticks he goes. And he's having a wow of a game this afternoon, Patterson.
Don't think Riverside Park have seen footwork like that since Robin Purdy was playing here. And now Patterson to add the extras, and he does so as easiest conversion of the afternoon for the outside centre, and he adds the 2 points to his try, and 31 points to 7 now. Kelso are in the ascendancy, and they can start now properly concentrating on this game against Hoyk. Still 30 minutes to go in this game, and Jedforest will still make a fist of it at their home patch, but Kelso are enjoying an away day at Riverside Park, and they're certainly putting the nail in the coffin of their team, their rivals, who will be relegated and play National 1 rugby next season.
Quick update from Philip Hawke. It's now 26 points to 3 for Hoyk. A hat-trick for that man Andrew Mitchell. Still waiting on the whistle to blow at Millennium Park. It's Curry 36, Embrackis 10. That ending is imminent. Heriots Blues 10, Glasgow Hawks 19 is the shock result. Glasgow Hawks winning for the first time in about 8 or 9 matches, in fact. Musselburgh 33, Mar 39 is a full-time score. And International 1, it ended Dundee 56, Gala 19.
Buckley gets playback underway here. Again, kicks it to Murray Woodcock, who's had an impressive season himself as well, as he's been challenged. He's still got a Jed player over him who's not able to roll away quickly, but legally so. So Tate passes back to Hastie. He kicks it into the sky, and there's a bit of pressure here on for Jedforest, but has been really well gathered by the replacement there. I think that's perhaps Josh Lang who's on the bench there, that's come off for Jedforest. It's not actually, it does look like it's Lewis Elder who gathered that ball, and eventually Jedforest are able to win the penalty, and they'll get a chance to nudge it just closer towards the Kelso half. But again, it looks like every time Kelso get the ball, they're really assured of what they're going to be doing. They put pressure on the kick chase, and they're asking loads and loads of questions of Jedforest at the moment, even though they've got the kick downfield, and Dom Buckley gets it closer towards the Kelso 22.
Yeah, Jed just starting to think about a bit of pride here, a bit of respectability. They know we'll get absolutely cricket scored here in front of what is a big crowd. And Dale, you mentioned earlier on about what a mouth-watering prospect it is for this potential. Well, it's going to be a semi-final now between Hoyk and Kelso, let's face it. And I'm trying to cast my mind back to think when there will have been a bigger occasion for Borders rugby than that, and I'm thinking maybe was it around about 10 years ago that Melrose and Gala were duking it out at the top of the Premiership.
In the Premiership.
Been anything since then?
Yeah, not that I can remember, because after the emergence of the semi-professional rugby, it's pretty much been Hoyk have been the shining light from the Borders. And Selkirk have tried to squeeze in the top 4 before, not being able to do so, but Kelso have been rising through the ranks as Dom Buckley looks to try and get a reply score for Jedforest here, and he's cowed on the 22. Elder passes to Harvey Keith. He's got to try and control the ball against his hip, but does well with one hand. The ball is then scrappily passed back through the body of people who are just lying there at that ruck, and it's then being kicked downfield. So turnover ball, and Glenn Dinnan is the first player there, which is no surprise. The utility forward, the hooker and back row, is a pacey, robust little turgid character, and he's the first player there to make that challenge. Offload there from Skeldon. It's into the hands of a returning Fotheringham. The Jedforest players get there quickly, and Elder thinks he spots some space in behind, but Bruce McNeil is catching his breath in that pocket of space, and then goes on a Maisie. He challenges over the first couple of challenges there. One big charge over Jamie Ferguson was one of them, so Tate deploys the ball deep to Hastie. He does well as well to give it to Patterson. Robson floats the ball to Tweedy. Tweedy then is just going to pin the lugs back, and he's got a young sandwich to try and get through here, and he's been shackled there by Gregor Young. Lewis Young was there in support as well, tries to get a stab at this ball, not able to turn it over on the first occasion, so Kelso have to do well to try and scrap this ball back, but the referee has signalled that it's going to be a put into the scrum for Jedforest. It's not coming out there. And the referee having a little conversation with Andy Tate, but good defensive play from Gregor and Lewis Young there.
I was going to say, Dale, yeah, exactly that. Strong defence there, desperate defence, putting their bodies on the line. The elder statesman in the Jed back line still battling on. 31 points to 7 adrift there, but still putting in a shift. There's a few Jed players that are putting a shift this afternoon. Dom Buckley springs to mind. Rob Hogg since he came on. Keith Hooker's put himself about. Skeldon, they've stood up after what has been a season of real adversity.
And I think, yeah, and I totally agree with that, as we can see that Andy Tate's going to be replaced by Nick Stingle, and Jamie Bowie is on as well. We're in number 17. It also looks like there's, I think that's perhaps Lang, who is now coming onto the field of play. Looks like another replacement. There's a little break in play here, but I do agree with your sentiment there about some of those players, and I think that probably highlights some of the issues here at Riverside Park, because those big names that you mentioned, perhaps it's the squad depth, it's the gaps in between that are not really, it shows a little bit of the weakness in this Jedforest side. Buckley and Hogg just having a conversation in the in-goal area as the referee is going to get play back underway. It's currently in the hands of Elder. There's going to be a put into the scrum just on the 5 metre line, 5 metres in from the touch line, and Kelso will be hoping to try and get a nudge on here. Nick Stingle and Lewis Elder, new scrum halves in the second half here. A reminder, it's 7 points to Jedforest and it's 31 to Kelso at the moment. We've got 25 minutes left to play in the second half, so still got a bit of time here at Riverside Park for either some things to change or some things to get considerably worse. The scrum is nudged forward by Kelso, but the referee is going to reset it. We'll be bringing that back. The Jedforest players get back to their feet, and the last to rise is Bowie. And he's got another pair of striking yellow boots on as well. There must have been a sale on or something between him and Robert Hogg. They must have got a 2-for-1. The illuminated yellow boots are straddled on that 5 metre line now. The two scrums.
Once the preserve of only the flair players. Now it's the front rowers as well, Dale.
He's just on, give him a chance to show the flair. The scrums come together. Elder loiters at the tunnel, taps the ball in the back of his front row, and then it charges forward. Fotheringham has to try and tidy up at the back because he's under immense pressure from that Kelso scrum, but also Nick Stingle, who's lurking in behind there. He's an ex-Jedforest player as well. Bowie, he gets his first carry and does well to break free through a couple of players there. Ewan Thompson and Asante were the two players waiting there for Kelso. They plugged the gaps in defence as Jedforest looked to try and exit. Elder was there. It was almost flapped down there by Cammy Thompson, but it makes good ground, but well gathered there by Tweedy, and now he's going in towards the 22. Kelso now in the counter-attack, trying to punish that loose kick from Jedforest. Patterson thinks he spots some space on that far side. He stabs a kick across. Is the bounce of the ball going to be kind? It is. It's beautiful there from Patterson. He sweeps it across, and the bouncing ball is gathered by James Thompson, and he's at the double here at Riverside. He gets 2 scores, and Kelso extend their lead, 36 points to 7 now.
Looking really good now, Kelso. The party tricks coming out now. Dwayne Patterson there with the kick pass. That was a thing of beauty. Great assist from him. Takes a pat on the head from the try scorer Thompson, and they've just been so, last week as well, I was at their game last week, they've just been so impressive though.
Don Buckley looked to try and put a bit of pressure up in midfield, which perhaps just, it does, as soon as you lose that player in defence, the rest of the defence are having to question themselves, plug gaps and fill in the space. And Patterson was aware of the dog leg, and instead of trying to attack the space with ball in hand, he just floated a delicious ball over the top, and the awkward bounce of a rugby ball was favourable again for Kelso, and swept up there for James Thompson. 3 tries in the Premiership now.
They've done well, the two brothers stepping up from National 2.
They've done it exceptionally well, and I think it just goes to show that there's sometimes talent in the lower reaches if you can surround them with some impressive, talented individuals. Berwick has certainly been able to breed some good players. Kelso likewise, one of them, Patterson, has just glanced his conversion attempt in front of the uprights. A challenging kick for a right-footed kicker in front of the stand here at Riverside, but he doesn't stretch the lead. But it's an impressive lead for Kelso, because they lead 36 points to 7 against Jed.
Yeah, Jed, as I said before, it's a question of can they just claw their way back into this and get something. They don't want to spend the next sort of 25 minutes on the receiving end of a barrage of Kelso tries, but with the likes of Patterson in the fettle that he's in, you know, if Kelso continue to get possession, you wouldn't bet against it.
Well gathered by Cammy Thompson from the restart. Buckley again, just with a delicate pitch and wedge-esque of a restart, just getting underneath it and looking to try and find that space. Stingle takes the penalty, goes quickly, and he's looking to ask questions of this Jedforest defence. He's been clattered by Harvey Keith, who's probably been one of the standout players for Jedforest this afternoon. The ball deployed by Hasty, who's more often than not had to slot in as scrum half. He again passes the ball to Ewan Thompson. He looks to try and make some inroads. He offloads to James Glendinning, but the knock on there coming forward because of that low trajectory of that pass, and it means that it's going to be a put into the scrum to Jedforest.
Latest score from Philiphaugh, Selkirk 3, Hawick 33. Remember Andrew Mitchell getting a hat-trick earlier. Well, that's their 5th try of the game. And also in National 3, the big game we're covering today, Preston Lodge against Orkney. Preston Lodge top of the table, getting their revenge on Orkney, who's the only team to beat them this season. It's currently Preston Lodge 37, Orkney 12. Preston Lodge heading into National 2.
Preston Lodge relegated last year from National 2, or with the restructure anyway. They were one of the teams to essentially drop down in the division, and they've been in impressive form for the duration. Since that defeat against Orkney, they have swept everybody aside. Orkney, a gallant effort from them. But here back at Riverside, it's going to take a monumental effort from Jedforest to get anything from this game. And sitting at the foot of the Premiership table, 5 points. They've only got 4 try bonuses, 1 losing bonus so far this season, as Lewis Young looks to try and escape the clutches of the Kelso defenders. They're having to do well to challenge an on-rushing Robbie Thompson. Elder floats to Fotheringham out the back door to Buckley. He's sizes up his options, has to retreat on his heels and offload off the deck to Elder. He's been clattered there by Asante, but the referee is going to bring that back for a penalty. And it's a centre field position from the penalty. You would imagine it's just going to be stabbed down the touchline, but it's frustrating at times because Jedforest are playing really, really good rugby, but in such infrequent spells that's the frustration, because they can ask questions of this Kelso defence.
They can. They've showed that in this game, particularly with the beautiful Sheerageb try in the first half, but they've just not had enough of the ball. They've barely had any ball, any field position in this second half, and this is by far their best opportunity. 20 minutes in, 5 metre line out, something to build on.
Harvey Keith just waits for Bowie to get to the line out. He's there now, poised and ready. It goes to the front and it's thrown over the top, but gathered by Ferguson with his red skull cap, just penetrating that Kelso defensive line. He's been shackled and scragged, and the ball runs loose, and it's been swept up by Ewan Thompson in his own 5 metre line. So Kelso, a brilliant defensive effort from them this time. They're tackled, still in their 5 metre line. Stingle sizes up his options. He's got a couple on the blind side here, and almost a potential overlap, but he looks to try and box kick it. It's ricocheted off of a few bodies, but it was eventually gathered almost by Fotheringham. But I think Woodcock potentially has got that ball down, and that's a let off there for Kelso.
The kick was charged down. I must say that there was a Stingle went to try and catch it over the line. There was a shove in his back, as clear as day. There would have been a touch of controversy there if a Jed body had flopped on that ball, but they're battling on gamefully, Jed, and they've got field position here, albeit Paterson's going to try and relieve that now with a goal line dropout.
Right footed kick from Patterson, just sizes it up and then just lumps it high, and it's a delicious strike yet again from him. It's been fumbled there by Josh Lang, but he gets it at the second attempt and then starts to anchor his run back in field. A quick roll as well, presents the ball back. Good work from him after scrappily trying to get the ball. It's Keith now. He charges forward and Cammy Brown has just wrapped him up, and Jedforest now going through the phases through Buckley. Again, evasive work from the fly half. Elder ducks down to grab the ball and feed it to Skeldon, just outside of the Kelso 22 now. McGregor there trying to offer his services up to challenge. Elder finds Bowie, and Bowie bounds forwards, and he's made a good 5 yards there, flops down on the ball, and Jedforest are now inside of the Kelso 22. Elder looks at his options and then snipes through the middle and almost is through if it wasn't for the fingertips of Ewan Thompson. And then Ferguson, he has a little sniff at the defensive line as well. Elder gets there now. Skeldon acts as a pivot, finds Buckley almost back in field, but Woodcock is there and so is Glendinning. He tries to just wrap him up, but the referee has signalled that there's going to be a penalty there, and I think he's going to be having a conversation with somebody. He's asking Bruce McNeil to get back in the defensive line. He's still signalling and gesturing to the Jedforest players that there's an offside coming their way. It's Skeldon to take it quickly. He charges forward and he's been brought down a couple of metres shy of the line. Jedforest, and probably in the second half, they've not been as close to scoring a try as they are now. And slowly but surely they're making their way closer and closer. Steadying the ship, then peeling round the corner, getting over the line, and the referee awards the score, and it is a try for Jedforest. After quick thinking from Clark Skeldon, they manage to get over the line, and the pats at the back are going to that man, the captain, Clark Skeldon. He's the last player to rise, and I think he's the player to get the try, and they were made to work really hard for it. But even from that scrappy line out from the penalty, they've kept Kelso down here under pressure, and they get their rewards.
And all credit to them, they've not let their heads drop. They've battled on, and if ever a player deserved a try, not just so much in this game but over the course of a season, Clark Skeldon, he's been the leading light here. Turns up for training, puts in a shift, and he's worthy of that try, and he might be a man that's in demand over the summer deal.
Yeah, I would imagine he is. The conversion attempt quickly and snappily taken by Don Buckley, and the lackadaisical approach perhaps culminated in a scruffy effort from the fly half, and it means that the score remains 12 points to 36. But yeah, you mentioned Skeldon, 7th try this season. He's been a steady hand for Jedforest, but you would say that in this era of rugby, that things might change over the coming months and the coming years in terms of how our rugby's formed in the country. You would imagine Clark Skeldon's one of those players that clubs will be looking to keep a keen eye on.
Yeah, I would have thought so. He'd do a job at most places. Let's not talk him away from here, of course, but yeah, he's a Premiership operator, Clark Skeldon.
Patterson kicks it down Wardrop's throat, and with his lugs taped round, that white tape on top of his head, he looks a confrontational character and carries forward and does well. Jedforest now going through phases, looking a little bit more structured and steady, but that flat pass into a congested area has just ricocheted forward outside of a Jedforest 22, which means there'll be a put into the scrum to Kelso, another chance to try and launch an attack.
Good field position as well, centre field just outside the Jed 22. They've not had too much ball last 5-10 minutes, Kelso, so they'll be looking for the last 15 minutes or so to exert their authority. They know this game's in the bag, and because of what happened at Golden Acre earlier today, they know their objective for the last 2-3 weeks has been met now with a game to spare as well, Dale. It is quite remarkable, really.
Yeah, and well, I'm maybe going to get your thoughts after this phase of play, because I've got a question about how they approached perhaps that Glasgow Hawks game.
Oh yeah, I could imagine what the question's going to be.
Yeah, so
you'll get a straight answer from me on that one.
Good. Stingle puts the ball into the scrum. It's been picked at the back by Cammy Brown. He does it. It floats a lovely ball to Patterson. He passes it across to Barber. He checks his feet and gives it to Tweedy. Tweedy brushes off the challenge, then back in field, then almost over the whitewash, and he does get over the try line. Great footwork from the winger, and they're both at the double now. They've only both scored one try so far this season, Robbie Tweedy and James Thompson, and they've got 4 in this game, 2 apiece. And Kelso stretch their lead here again. They're now 41 points to 12 to the good.
And another brilliant finish from Tweedy. Mentioned before, in as much as they've not scored too many tries, Dale, they do add something, the wingers. They run hard and they create space for others, and they go looking for work, and they've both scored a couple of tries this afternoon, and they've both been the doubles have been deserved by them both as well.
Yeah, he was made to work incredibly hard for that one. A lot more harder than his first. And now, as Patterson puts the ball down on the tee, how do Kelso approach that game against Glasgow Hawks?
Oh well, I can't say on the preview show that I'd have wrapped Melbourne and Cotton Wool for this game. The likes of Melbourne and Cotton Wool for this game, he was only 50-50. I mean, what are Kelso Storm up to that day? Have they got a game?
It's a funny one. I just think, especially looking at the preparation for this game, I'll give you my thoughts after Patterson eyes up this conversion attempt. This would take it to 43 points to 12. And again, he's got his aqua boots just off of the pitch, and now encroaching on that touch line, runs up, right-footed kick. It's curling a little bit closer this time, but again just to the right-hand side, and he just stretches his body and looks up into the sky, and the disappointment from the outside centre from that effort. But he's been at the centre of everything, which has been excellent about Kelso, and I think my point on the Kelso team is that it's been really consistent throughout the season, and I think that's perhaps what's got them there so far. I would still go full noise against Glasgow Hawks and look to continue that, because the game against Hawick, you perhaps don't want that little drop off from not playing any action. We don't know, we have to get confirmation of those semi-final dates, but certainly I think they'll be looking to go with a strong squad. If I had anything to do with it anyway. Kick downfield from Hastie, been well gathered in the backfield by Fotheringham, who has to hear it forward in front of a healthy looking crowd in front of the bar area here at Riverside Park. Cranston now, who's been a quiet operator in this game, Not really seen a lot of him. He carries forward and he draws the penalty. Stingle has to wrap up his opposite man, Elder. And eventually Ferguson rises with the ball in hand and pirouettes out of trouble. Elder's there quickly, a flap of the hands from Bowie, he gets in the road. Hogg looks a bit disappointed because he was waiting there, a little sarcastic gesture with the hand to say communication perhaps, but they're going to come back for a put into the scrum for Jedforest, and I think that's perhaps a part of the frustration. It's got a little bit scrappy for Jedforest at times.
It has. It's been a wee bit of lack of cohesion. I've been impressed again by Ferguson. He's stood up all season. He only started playing front row this season. They're changed to front row this season. 14 games against the best of the Premiership. Always puts in a shift. The two young props today. If Jed can nurture them next season, then it augurs well for the future. But going back to what you said, Dale, about going full cock against Glasgow Hawks, Kelso, you make a strong argument there. There's pros and cons. Can you imagine a Patterson or a McNeil or a Melbourne gets a dull one? That's the thing.
I think that's the risk you take. And I must say, I said noise, Robin. I didn't say that. I said noise. Elder with the ball. He passes to Fotheringham. He carries forward. Elder again is hunched over and looking to give the ball to Bowie. This time he's lying flat and he's making some good yards. Again, making 5 yards, it takes a few players to bring him down. He's a colossus of a player, and perhaps you can see what impact he makes off the bench. He's maybe not an 80-minute player, but he's certainly making some hard-earned yards for this Jedforest side. And now Harvey Keith tries to brush off Cammy Brown. And the Kelso defence has been strong. It's been a real weapon for them this season again, as Bowie carries and he's cowped again, and the Jedforest players have to get there quickly. Elder finds Skeldon, he sizes up his options, and then a beautiful, delicious offload as well, out the back door from the second row. He's so unassuming with the ball in hand, Clark Skeldon, and when you can see him unleash things like that, it is phenomenal to see his skill set. He's a really talented player. And Jedforest now on the 10-metre line. Elder with Wardrop, another confrontational character, as I said before. He carries towards that 10-metre line again. The Jedforest forwards are taking the ball pretty deep and having to work hard to get back towards the gain line. They're now a couple of metres over it this time from an effort from Harvey Keith, but the first time they get over that real gain line in any time, Kelso are on it and they've starved the ball and they win the penalty. And again, 10 minutes or so to go here at Riverside Park. Jedforest 12, Kelso 41. It's all good for Kelso at the moment.
It is. They're soaking up the increased amount of possession and territory that Jed have got. Now Patterson's going to send it to the touchline, and I must say, Dale, that I can confirm that rugby-related Bowie puns are difficult to come by. I've been racking my brain the last 2 or 3 minutes, but
I think it's a different generation. I'm out on that one.
Right.
I'm out on that one.
That's maybe more Hugh Brown's thing.
We'll leave that to Hugh Brown. I'm sure he'll have a couple. You might interview him after the game and you might hear them, what they are. He's scribbling it down on his notepad in front of us as we speak. And from the line out, Stingle gives the ball to Hasty, who's still at fly half. Patterson is then out the back door. Robson acting as the ghosting runner. Barber then puts it on the toe this time, but he's kicked it straight to Josh Link. And he almost thought he had open prairie, but the tenacious Kelso defence, again, just ravenous any time a Jedforest player has the ball in hand. Just managed to just scrag the youngster, get him off the field to play, but it was great as well there, because we've seen it time and time again. Barber comes into the line, he looks to have a go, and then he deploys the ball. First time he's really put boot to ball, which caught me by surprise.
Me too, yeah.
It does show you that there's a little bit of a mix-up there in his game. I've been immensely impressed by Barber, what I've seen of him this season.
Yeah, definitely. They've got high hopes for him at Kelso. He's a player that, if there is a pathway, if a pathway exists going forward, then he's a player that can certainly set foot on that pathway, I would say.
I would say so. Thrown to the line out. It's went to the tail. Ferguson gathered it under pressure. Buckley deploys the ball midfield now. Jedforest looking to try and go through the phases. Buckley with the ball back in hand. Amazing run back in field. He passes it to one of the early replacements, Robbie Thompson there. The ruck is formed slightly in field, and you've got to say that certainly Don Buckley's been the star man for Jedforest this afternoon. Him and Harvey Keith have been immensely impressive. Jedforest been picked off the ground by Fotheringham again. Hogg filters the ball wide. It's to one of the Youngs. It's the Lewis Young this time with a little step either way, looking to try and be evasive in attack, but the Kelso defence again standing firm. A counter-attack as well. It's been plucked off by Thompson, and now Woodcock. He's trying to draw the 2-on-1, but the referee is going to come back for the penalty there, and there's a little infringement there. So the referee brings it back for a penalty to Jedforest.
Yeah, it relieves the pressure. Woodcock's got a turn of pace and he was away there. There's a Jed man flat on his back. Unfortunately, we'll see who that is in just a second as the clock ticks down. There's about 6 minutes or so remaining. And yeah, I have to say, Jed, this could have went worse for them in this second half. They could have capitulated. They've nothing to play for. They've been relegated a long time. Kelso very much on the front foot, but Jed have stuck in, and fair play to them. They
definitely have. As you said before, it's been a while since this derby has taken place, over 20 years, and certainly they were the golden years for these two clubs in club rugby. So it's been a while since they've locked horns in the Premiership. It might be a while until we see it again at the top table of Scottish club rugby. And Kelso will have fond memories of this double-header, winning at Poinder Park back in October. And it was a victory on that occasion, 21 points to 31. Jedforest were defeated. It was tighter in October, and it's certainly a gulf between the two sides now. The referee shrill of the whistle. Buckley sizing up his options. He taps the ball. He looked to give it to Bowie, but it's just opened up in front of him, and I think Bruce McNeil fancied a little bit of that, but he's went forward with Fotheringham. They've come together and clattered as Elder then gives it to Buckley. Buckley to Skeldon. Skeldon tips onto Hogg. The ball is ricocheted and catapulted into the sky, and waiting underneath it is Murray Hastie, and he goes underneath the post for a further score for Kelso. And out of nothing, they're underneath the sticks in impressive fashion.
Yeah, Murray Hastie, one of the unsung heroes, it seems at times in this Kelso team, but he's a very, very accomplished and calm player, and he's got a turn of pace as well, and he was only too happy to gobble that up and run that in under some of his own fans. And yeah, good player Murray Hastie, and deserved his try this afternoon.
It was a brilliant try. He has been impressive this afternoon, really impressive, acting as his fly half, and sometimes having to squeeze in there as a scrum half as well, and it shows you the balance as Patterson just gets his right boot underneath that ball off the tee and over the uprights. 48 points to 12, and I think Kelso will be sniffing down that 50 mark. We've got 5 minutes left to play here. Jedforest quick to go back to the halfway line, and we'll get an opportunity in the next few minutes to perhaps bring you up to date with some of the scores around the country, but we've still got 5 minutes left here at Riverside Park, and Buckley gets the restart. He's almost going to kick this off in the full. It's not gone 10, so it's going to come back, and it's going to be a ball to Kelso. So another error creeping into the Jedforest game. A dejected looking now, and Don Buckley, hands on his hips on the 10 metre line. A slightly isolated figure. He has been impressive this afternoon, but a little error creeping into his game now. Scrum centre field. Will be a put into the scrum for Kelso. And, you know, in terms of this, both clubs are on different trajectories, but Kelso this season, they've made it to the semi-final. What will be, what will happen will take form. But they certainly seem like they're a club that are growing. But Jedforest, on the other hand, are obviously, it's going to be a difficult few years for them to steady the ship, I think.
It looks at Dale, unfortunately, from the outside looking in. As I said in the preview show, the last thing that you want to see happen is for them, get on that slippery slope a la Aberdeen or Boroughmuir. Next season they just need to consolidate in what's going to be a tough league for them.
National 1 will be a competitive league as it's kicked downfield from that scrum, and it's Patterson who puts boot to ball, and it just trundles off in front of the sprinkling of spectators in front of the bar area. I think a lot of them we can see just inside the glass doors that surround that building. There's a lot of bodies inside now.
Yeah, I think they'll be jostling for position in front of a telly for the Scotland game, I would have thought.
Or at the bar, perhaps, to drown the sorrows if they're perhaps Jedforest fans. But it's going to be a throw into the line now. Ferguson, conversation with David Campbell. Ball above the head. It's a shortened line out. A little bit of movement and not much else, and it's been thrown in and it's as squint as you like from that throw in to the line out. So it's a chance to put into the scrum here for Kelso, and you could almost bet we're going to probably see Archie Barber coming into the attacking line and perhaps stretch this defence.
Yeah, it's not what you want to see if you're in the wider reaches of the Jed defence, because he's caused carnage all afternoon. And this back line, this Kelso back line, if Kelso can get parity up front, then they can do Hoyk a bit of damage as well.
I totally agree. I think that it's Kelso are in good shape. I think that out of all the teams in the league at the moment, you would say they are certainly one of them that could ask a few questions of Hoyk. But it's a mouth-watering clash, and something that I'm eagerly anticipating, as I'm sure you are as well, Robin. And the scrum put in now has been filtered out again by Brown. Hasty finds Robson on the wraparound. Hasty then gets the ball back, gives it to Patterson. Patterson fumbles the ball but then kicks it forward. The referee spotted that there's a knock on in there, and we'll bring it back to a put into the scrum for Jedforest. But it did look like it was on there again for Kelso.
Oh, definitely, and that's a collector's item certainly this afternoon. An error by Patterson, who in the main has been absolutely sublime. I think it's probably a two-way shootout between him and Barber for man of the match, Dale. No, yeah. There's a few contenders, I would say.
Yeah, there is a few contenders, but I think you've perhaps named two of the real instrumental players that have played their part in helping Kelso on their road to an impressive victory away from home at Riverside Park against Jedforest. Currently 12 points to 48. They lead. There's a scrum put into Jed, and you could argue as the clock just trundles towards that 40-minute mark that we are coming to the end of this game, but you could perhaps suggest that there might be further scoring. And Jedforest certainly capable of scoring from well deep inside their own half, where they currently find themselves. Wardrop carries forward, and then Elder's under a bit of pressure, and then the forward foray from Cranston, who's starting to grow into the second half slightly. Elder now through the hands and tipped round the back there, and Buckley splinters through. He's been shackled, almost tries to offload, but Kelso players are good there to get round and put a bit of pressure on the Jed defence. Thompson somehow has emerged with the ball in hand, but the referee signalled that there's a penalty there for not releasing, so Cammy Thompson is penalised. The quick penalty taken by Fotheringham. Then Skeldon charges forward over the halfway line now. Offload there, tipped onto an early replacement, Robbie Thompson, and he hares forward now. Jedforest have broke free from their own 22 with relative ease, winning that penalty as well, which has helped their cause. Elder finds Bowie. Bowie charges forward. He's been brought to ground. Pedestrian pace, but he's perhaps that's the pace he likes to cause a bit of damage to. Robert Hogg knocks forward from the subsequent ruck, and the referee shrills his whistle and brings the game to a close. And it is a game which confirms Kelso's status as the fourth team into the playoffs. How the other teams above them will form in terms of where Curry and Mar sit matters not a jot to Kelso at this stage. They know they can book a bus for travelling to Mansfield Park for the semi-final in the Premiership, and at half time we probably knew that was what was going to happen, but they've made a classy job of this victory here this afternoon. Riverside Park is not an easy place to come, but they've certainly went about their business professionally, and they've put in a really accomplished performance, and probably, in my opinion, certainly deserve that fourth position in the league.
Oh, definitely, and you could argue, Dale, that on current form in the last 2-3 months, maybe they're not the fourth best team in the league currently. They've given Mar a bit of a scudding, and they've beat Curry as well. So arguably they're on form. They're better than the fourth place team in the league. But yeah, they've come here today. I wouldn't necessarily have classed this as a banana skin, but it had the added pressure of the fact it was a border derby, and Jed want to finish the season with a win, their first of the campaign, and Kelso don't want to be the recipient of Jed's first win of the campaign. So that would add a bit of pressure, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. They've done a professional job here this afternoon. A team that's played together all season. They've just been monumentally impressive in the last 2 weeks, and I'm absolutely thrilled for them. The players, Kevat, the coaches, Neil Hinnigan in particular, they've made the playoffs in their first season in the Premiership for 20 odd years, and it's not as if last summer they got the chequebook out either, let's face it.
I totally agree. I think that squad has been formed for a while. and it's a squad that's developed and been consistent, and I can see McMinto, a coach of mine back in the district days as well, a real passionate member of that Kelso team, the backroom team, will be chuffed to bits that his side have managed to squeeze into the playoff in impressive fashion. But both of these sides have yet to play one more game. They've got one more game to play in the campaign, and it's going to be against Glasgow Hawks. Little riding on it for Kelso now, just a bit of preserving their players and building towards that semi-final. Jedforest are still hunting a first victory in this Premiership campaign, and they'll perhaps not want to go through the whole campaign not tasting a victory. But here at Riverside Park, it finishes a very one-sided victory, but Kelso secure their place in the playoffs because it finishes here, Jedforest 12, Kelso 48.
Thank you to Robin and to Dale. We'll be getting some reaction to that very, very shortly. Murray Hastie going to be joining us from Kelso, and also the other old-timer from Jedforest, Robert Hogg, and getting their thoughts on it. Let's give you the results from the Premiership. Curry 36, Enbrackies 10, Herits Blues 10, Glasgow Hawks 19. That result means that Kelso are in the playoffs. That's the big news here today. Musselburgh 33, Mar 39. Currently Selkirk 3, Hawick 59. And we're still waiting for the whistle to blow in that one. Well, let's give you the table actually, because it looks quite good from a Borders perspective. Anyway, if you're listening in the Borders, Hawick on top with 77 points, second Mar 67, then it's Curry 65, Kelso 52, Musselburgh go up to 5th place 47, that's where they'll end. That was their last game today. Enbrackies 46, Herits Blues 45, so they cannot catch Kelso. Selkirk have 35, Glasgow Hawks 30 with that win at Heriots, and Jedforest on 5 points. They've still got one game to go against Glasgow Hawks. In National 1, Dundee 56, Gala 19, GHA 43, Biggar 25, Glasgow Accies 35, Highland 19, and Watsonians 28, Melrose 25. So in the Division 1, obviously Ayr home and hosed in the dressing room, 74 points for them. It's Highland in second on 51, Melrose third 51, GHA fourth on 51. That's tight. 50 points for Watsonians in 5th place. 6th, it's Glasgow Accies with 46. 7th, it's Biggar on 40. Gala 8th, 39. Dundee 9th, 29. Now 10 points clear of GHK at the bottom with 19 points. International 2 then, it was Falkirk 38, Berwick 14. Stumel 35, Gordonians 14. And Stirling County 29, Peebles 40. So the National 2 table now looks like this. Peebles retaining their position at the top of the table with 67. Falkirk have 66. Third, Newton Stewart 57. Fourth, Lass Wade 54. In 5th place, Gordonians 43. Stumel on 6, 37 points for them. 7th, Kirkcaldy on 30. 8th, Stirling County 26. Berwick 9th with 20. Aberdeen Grammar at the bottom with 15. Berwick not getting any points today, and now they have the same amount of matches as they have with Aberdeen. Still a couple to play from in that one. 2 more matches and 3 more matches, in fact, for both of them at the bottom of the table. In National 3, it was Boroughmuir 63, West of Scotland 21, Hillhead Jordanhill 61, Cartha Queen's Park 14, and Preston Lodge against Orkney. It has just finished. Let's go and join Sam Matthews.
Full time here at the Penny Pit, and as you can hear by the stands, the score has gone the way of the home side. 51 points to 12 to Preston Lodge versus their rivals Orkney. 6 tries for the home side sees them cement themselves at the top of National 3. Full time here at Penny Pit, Preston Lodge 51, Orkney 12.
What an atmosphere at Penny Pit. They're just one step away now, one very small step away from playing National 2 rugby next season. Right, we've been joined by a veteran, we can call him. What a great man, Murray Hastie. He's now with Hugh Brown.
Murray, I can say congratulations, because not only have you won today, Heriots lost to Glasgow Hawks, and that means that you are the 4th place team.
Yeah, obviously we're really happy with that. We've just mentioned that in the tunnel there, but believe it or not, we want to push ourselves on further. We know we've got a big game at Hawks as well, and we've got 2 big weeks coming up, and we've not got a game next weekend, but we'll be down training and pushing. I don't think anybody believed we could get ourselves in that position, but we fully believed we could, and we've still got a job to do yet.
You have defied the critics a bit. You said, you came up from National League One. Nobody expected you to end up in 4th place and be, in with a chance of actually still winning the Premiership.
Yeah, obviously we're quietly confident in-house at Poinder. Things are going really well down at the club just now. I mean, I look around the crowd. There's a load of Kelso folk up there supporting us, and they're on the journey with us as well. I was quietly confident going up here today because, last season in National 1 we had 3 or 4 games that we had to win at the end of the season to go up. The absolute thriller at Highland 7-5 on a glorious day on the 3G pitch, but we just know ways to dog things out. We are critical on ourselves, but we'll also take some plaudits. But ultimately, as I say, we've still got a job to do.
One of the strengths of Kelso is the number of local players that are in the team. I think last week and probably this week, 14 of the 15 players were local lads.
Yeah, that's massive plaudits. I think that's been been around the club for a very long time, and as Stuart said, a bit of a veteran. We maybe didn't have that years ago, and we kind of lost our identity. We've massively got our identity now, and as development officer at the club, we've got a number of kids coming through, hopefully that can stick around the town, and it's a community game for us, and we've got to keep building the Kelso boys round about, adding to it as well. Guys like Bruce McNeil, Ewan Knox, who's been around the last 4 or 5 seasons, believe it or not. I think he's only about 22, 23, but he looks about 40. So, but there's some really good guys coming through, and as long as we're adding to the squad, as well as that youth and experience in there as well, we've got a really good balance.
What keeps you going, Murray, then? Because you've been with the club for a long number of years. What keeps you playing?
Just I think again seeing the youth come and play, and my job's made a hell of a lot easier nowadays with guys like Dwayne Patterson who can step in at first receiver. He loves to play. He's very noisy outside me, and that's something we talk about, that it's not just about me and old Andy Tate in there as well trying to control things. We want other people to add, and Dwayne, James Thompson's came in and added a little bit of knowledge and understanding, and we've got that grunt outside us. It's just great to play with some young boys. They keep you youthful, and yeah, it's just a pleasure to play with them.
You'll be very much looking forward then to the semi-final. It's a game against Hawick at Mansfield Park.
Yeah, hopefully it goes a slightly different way to when we went there earlier in the season. It was almost like touch rugby at times there, but we are a better side. The league table shows you that. The games that we've played, Mar and Curry at home, dogging results out, getting the crowd behind us. I'd like to think again we'll have a massive crowd from Kelso coming to support us on the day, and as I say, I would say we're a different beast. If we get the nuts and bolts right, and we manage to get ball and we get opportunities, we've got to be clinical against Hawick, and we know what they're bringing. They're very physical, really strong set piece. I think we're no far off matching that at times. It's going to be a tight game, and it's just great that we're in with a fight.
Well, if you can beat Hawick, you'll all be heroes, and they'll be dancing in the streets of Kelso, that's for sure. And but we wish you the best in the semi-final, and thank you for joining me this afternoon.
No problem, thanks very much.
We're still awaiting Jed reaction. Robert Hogg hopefully will be with us shortly, but let's go to Philip Hall, because it's all over between Selkirk and Hawick, and here's Alan Lorimer.
Hawick needed only 1 point today from their game with Selkirk at Philip Hall, but in the event, the Greens got a bucket load of points in the end, winning 59 points to 3. It was a one-way traffic all match. The Greens led 19-3 at half time and then piled on the pressure in the second half until it became absolutely a lap of honour at the end. Andrew Mitchell scored a hat-trick of tries, all in the first half. Lee Armstrong had a brace, as did Callum Rennick. Kirk Ford had a single try, as did Morgan Tate, and Ford kicked 7 conversions. And the 3 points for Selkirk came from the boot of Hugo Alderson with a first half penalty kick. But it was one-way traffic all the match.
Alan Lorimer at Philip Hawk today. The final score there is Selkirk 3, Hawick 59. That's the biggest win from a Hawick perspective at Selkirk for a long, long time. Well, joining us now here is Robert Hogg from Jedforest, and he's with Hugh Brown.
Robert, it wasn't to be today. Kelso were just too strong.
Yeah, listen, they're on a high right now. They had to win this game. Had to get the bonus point. They got it early on and they just kicked on for there. We couldn't match their physicality. But what can you expect when we're not getting boys training and that? It's just bringing boys like myself back. I've been out of the game for a wee while and coming back to that, it was hard. But hey, fair play to Kelso, they came out of nowhere. Going down division a couple of years ago and coming back, and now they're pushing for a playoff, and there's no reason why, if they play like that, they can challenge, certainly in the semi-finals. I believe it's against Hawick. So there's, it's all in the day. Border derby again. All in the day, so yeah, fair play to them. They done well, but we just didn't front up when we needed to, and it cost us in the end. So
Must be a disappointing season for Jedforest, because you are relegated to National League Division 1.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but we were up against it early on in the season, to be honest, and we're relying on boys, keeping fit, and boys just putting in that extra work. And we've had a couple of bad injuries, and a couple of injuries there maybe cost us early on. Losing Gregor Law, never a good sign. Losing Gregor Law, he's a big ball carrier, and then Gregor Young, 10 minutes in the second half or so, that was pretty costly, and we just lost shape. But hey, it is what it is. We've talked to the boys before the game. Look, we're down now. The pressure's off us. We knew we had to give Kelso a game today. So we're targeting border league games. We've got Peebles to play, Gala, Melrose. These are all teams that we're going to play next year. So we have to front up in these games. And then, we've still got Glasgow Hawks. Glasgow Hawks have to come down here. So again, another big target for us. So if we can get that win against the Hawks, at least we can finish the season on a little bit of a high. And then obviously the Sevens comes after that. So we'll take as it comes. But the key for us right now is keeping boys fit and keeping boys interested,
Stuart called you a veteran. I think that's a compliment from Stuart, actually, because you've been around the club for a long number of years.
Yeah, I've been here a long time, and it's hard. I've been in and out, to be honest, the last 4 or 5 years. But when I got my knees sorted out, and just initially watching from the sideline, it was frustrating. We came close in some games, and I just thought, you know what, you're a long time retired, and it's good to be back amongst the boys, and helped out before Christmas there. But last couple of weeks I've been struggling to make training dates. It's a bit harder for me, other commitments and that. But I'll do what I can to help the club out. I'll play any position. Obviously, you've seen there I was in the back row, centre, winger. I can't remember what else, maybe prop. Who knows? But I'm just here to help out and try and get a little bit buzz and a little bit experience, more so. And these are the things that we will need, regardless. We're bringing on a young team next year. We will still need these experienced heads, but it's keeping the guys at the club that's going to be the key duties of the guys higher up. So we'll see what we're getting for there,
So we've not seen the last of Robert Hogg then?
No, we had a conversation with Lewis Young. We've still got about 20 plus games to go to get 250. If I can get 250, or if I can play until the age of 40, that's the target. But we'll see. We'll take every game as it comes. It's getting a lot more physical now. It's a little bit harder to recover now. So, but yeah, albeit the result, I just enjoyed being back in amongst it today. It wasn't the result we wanted, but we'll push on, we'll get back training, and we'll see what we can bring for Hawks, Peebles, Gala, Melrose, and see if we can get something positive out of that before the end of the 15 season.
Robert, thanks for joining us on Rugby Radio.
Thanks very much, Hugh.
Thank you to Hugh Brown there doing the interviews pitch side today. We can now go to Golden Acre, because Andy Hill, the head coach of Hawks, big win for them today, the first for a long time, and of course the result which sends Kelso into the playoffs. Let's hear from Andy Hill.
Good day, finally get a win to get us back on track. Made hard work of it, as we probably dominated a lot of the possession in Heritage 22, but didn't really come out with any tries. But fair play to the lads, they played for the full 80, and when we got in there towards the end we made it count. And then a big massive defensive effort at the end kind of nullified Heritage, and we got an intercept off the back of that, which probably put a gloss on the score.
Not so good news at Mayfield today though. Dundee against Gala, it was 56-19. Here's Gala's perspective from Angus Dunn.
Really disappointing up at Dundee today. Missing a few boys for Wales to the game, but it didn't. That wasn't any excuse for that performance. I can't quite mind the final score, but a lot to work on, to be fair. It was just the wee things, pushing passes that weren't going to hand, not running the lines that we were doing in training. Just a wee bit of passion and effort I feel was missing. So pretty deflated, but just have to kind of rebuild and go away to Highland 2 weeks time, I think it is, for our last league game of the season, and see if we can put a performance in up there. Just disappointed.
Also in National 1, Watsonians protecting their home record against Melrose 28-25. Here's the Melrose perspective from Donald Crawford.
It was a real yo-yo battle up at Mireside in blustery conditions. We went ahead first. Struan kicked 2 penalties with the wind in the first half. Watsons then scored to make it 7-6 through a tap penalty by Stu Allison. It was myself managed to get on the end of a pass off Struan Hutchison to go under the sticks and make it 13-6. And then Struan scored himself after some good patience by the forwards in the goal zone. He went over in the corner. We were up at half time. Watsons came back, they had the wind in the second half, and again the game really just yo-yoed from there. They'd score, we'd score, they score, we scored, and then we had a chance to win it. At the end, Kieran scored, Watsons then came back and scored through a driving maul try. they started to dominate that scrum time a bit, and got in good field position. And then last play we were 3 points down, had an opportunity to win it, real good patience, got up to their goal zone, and then the ball split out the back of our ruck. Watson's got it and kicked it off the field. But no, it was a good game for the neutral. I think they're unbeaten at home, so it was always going to be a tough ask. But you know, we played some good rugby. But yeah, it was just one of those days where maybe we had moments where we could have put some daylight between ourselves and Watsonians, and maybe just didn't take those chances, or we weren't clinical enough at the right times. But no, there was plenty of positives. We've got a break now before we go into the Border League, so it'll be a good opportunity to iron some things out, get some detail in, and just make sure we're rested up as well to go in 2 weeks' time. I think it's against Celtic. So.
Also, of course, in the National 2, Falkirk got a bonus point win today against Berwick. Peebles managed the same against Stirling County, the two battling at the top. Let's hear from Matty Carrier of Peebles.
Good day out for Peebles on the road up to Stirling. Obviously a difficult week training. I think we had missed 2 or 3 boys in today's squad, and then a late call off from Ross Brown. So we had to change the squad up a wee bit, but it just shows the depth in this squad this year. We've managed to put a good performance up in Stirling and get the 5 points. Thought the game itself went quite well. I think we put ourselves forward quite early on in the game, got a couple early scores, but Stirling were a stuffy side. They kept coming back at us, and from our own mistakes, I think, let them slip in, but managed to get that bonus try and then see the game out in the second half. So good win on the road for Peebles.
And also in that division, it was a good win for Stewmel at home to Gordonians, 35-14. Here's head coach Alex Haggart.
We've built quite a lot of momentum, which is nice. I think the key thing of what we've done is just the maturity in terms of our play. We knew this wasn't, or when the conditions were what they were with 20 mile an hour winds, it wasn't going to be a day for chucking it about. So, I thought Kyle Henderson at 10 plugged corners really well. I thought Jamie Sword, our captain, led the line out really well, put pressure on them and made our own calls right. So I think that made a huge difference. And yeah, I think we physically dominated, which was quite nice, and strung some really good phases together, and it was again quite a mature performance. So yeah, really pleased. I think the boys have turned a huge corner as a team. They've done an unbelievable job, and they've just made a bit of a winning machine over the last sort of 7 or 8 games. I think we've only lost a couple, so they've built a lot of momentum, and they're playing with really good tactical maturity and player to our strength. So I'm really happy for them, and I'm really proud of the way they've gone.
Alex Hackard of Stewmel, the head coach there. They're up to 37 points now, and of course that would have been 40 had they not been docked 3 points. But our closing headlines tonight in the Premiership, there were wins for Curry, Glasgow Hawks, Mar, Kelso and Hawick. In National 1, victories went to Dundee, GHA, Glasgow Accies and Watsonians. And National 2, win for Falkirk, Stewmel and also Peebles. The results from Division 3 and 4 on our website at rugbyradio.co.uk. Don't forget our weekly Scottish Club Rugby podcast, episode 21, available wherever you get your podcast from right now, with Dale Clancy and myself. We take a break next week because it's Scotland against France, but we'll be back on Saturday the 17th of February. It'll be a National 2 promotion race special. 2 o'clock Glasswade against Falkirk, 3 o'clock Kirkcaldy against Peebles. It's going to be exciting. Join us then. From the team, bye-bye.